Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm in my early 30s, and I've been married to David for 5 years now. Before I go on, please like and subscribe to follow my journey. When David and I first got married, everything seemed perfect. We were deeply in love and had big plans for our future, but recently, things have become more complicated. One night, I was working late at my design agency when I got a text from my friend, Sarah. "Hey girl, Mark and I are grabbing dinner tomorrow night. Do you and David want to join?" I sighed, knowing David would probably come up with an excuse not to go. He had been avoiding our friends lately. "Thanks for the invite. I'll ask David and let you know," I replied. The next morning at breakfast, I brought it up. "So, Sarah invited us to dinner with her and Mark tonight. I thought it might be nice to go out for a change," I said. David barely looked up from his phone. "I can't. I have a big presentation to prepare for tomorrow," he said. "You've been working late every night this week. One dinner won't hurt," I gently pressed. He finally looked at me, but I could see he was irritated. I said, "I can't, Olivia. My job is important, and spending time together isn't." The words came out before I could stop them. "Isn't important?" David's jaw clenched. "That's not fair. You know how crucial this deal is for my career." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I understand that, but our marriage needs attention too. When was the last time we did something fun together?" I asked. "We went to my mother's for dinner last weekend," he replied. I resisted rolling my eyes. "That's not what I meant by fun." He stood up abruptly, clearly frustrated. "Well, what do you want from me, Olivia? I'm doing my best here." As he stormed out of the kitchen, I called after him. "I want us to be partners again, to actually talk and spend time together." The front door slammed behind him. I sat down in my chair, holding back tears. This wasn't what I imagined marriage would be like. Where had we gone wrong? And more importantly, how could we fix it? I pulled out my phone and texted Sarah, "Count me in for dinner. David can't make it. Maybe a night out with friends would help clear my head." As I got ready for work, I couldn't shake the feeling that David and I were drifting apart. I loved him, but love alone wasn't enough. We needed to learn how to communicate and reconnect. I grabbed my bag and headed out, determined to find a way to bridge the growing gap between us. Our marriage was worth fighting for. I just hoped David felt the same way. As I stood in the nursery, gently rubbing my swollen belly, I wondered if we could fix things before our baby arrived. I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that had been with me for the past few months. It had been a whirlwind of emotions: joy about becoming a mother, anxiety about all the changes ahead, and the growing tension between David and me. "Olivia," David called from downstairs, "can you come down? We need to talk about something." I took a deep breath, preparing myself for what I knew was coming. When I walked into the kitchen, David was sitting at the table, looking serious. "I've been thinking," he began as I sat down. "I want to name the baby after my mother." My heart sank. This was exactly what I had been dreading. "David, we've talked about this. I'm not comfortable with that," I said. His eyes narrowed. "Why not? She's going to be the baby's grandmother. It's a family tradition." "Because your mother is difficult," I said carefully. "She's always interfering in our lives. I don't want her to have even more control over us or our child." David's face flushed with anger. "That's ridiculous. My mother just wants what's best for us." I couldn't hold back. "What's best for us or what's best for her? This is our child, David. We should choose a name we both love." He stood up and started pacing the kitchen. "You're being selfish, Olivia. This is important to me and my family." I felt my own anger rising. "And what about what's important to me? Don't I get a say in our child's name?" David's face twisted in frustration. "You're just jealous of my mother. You've never liked her." "That's not true," I protested. "I've tried to get along with her, but she's always criticizing me and trying to control our lives." David suddenly turned around, his eyes flashing with anger. "Don't talk about my mother like that." Before I could react, his hand slapped my cheek. The sound echoed in the kitchen as I stared at him in shock, my hand flying to my stinging face. For a moment, everything froze. The reality of what just happened hit both of us. David's eyes widened in horror. "Olivia, I'm so sorry," he stammered. "I didn't mean to. I don't know what came over me." I backed away from David, tears filling my eyes. "Don't touch me," I whispered. "It was an accident," David pleaded. "I would never hurt you on purpose. I'm just stressed about the baby and work." But his excuses didn't matter. I rushed out of the kitchen and locked myself in the bathroom. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone and dialed Sarah. "Sarah," I choked out when she answered. "Can you come over? I need help." As I waited for her, I stared at my reflection in the mirror. The red mark on my cheek reminded me of how bad things had gotten. How did we end up here? And more importantly, what was I going to do? I heard David's footsteps outside the door, and I flinched. "Olivia, please come out. We need to talk," he said. I stayed silent, my mind racing. This wasn't just about the baby's name anymore. It was about respect, safety, and the future of our family. When I heard Sarah's car pull up, I knew I had some tough decisions to make. Days passed in tense silence. I avoided being alone with David, my emotions all over the place. Finally, I realized we couldn't go on like this. I had to confront him. I found David in his study, hunched over his laptop. Taking a deep breath, I stepped in. "We need to talk," I said firmly. David looked up, his face filled with guilt and worry. "Olivia, I held up my hand to stop him. "No, I need you to listen." David nodded and closed his laptop. "What happened the other day is unacceptable. I will not tolerate violence in our relationship. Do you understand?" "I do," David said quietly. "I'm so ashamed, Olivia. I never meant to hurt you, but you did," I replied. "And it's not just about the slap. It's the way you've been treating me, ignoring my feelings, putting your mother's wishes above our marriage." David's shoulders slumped. "You're right. I've been a terrible husband lately," he admitted. "I love you, David," I said, my voice softening a little. "But I'm scared of what might happen if you lose your temper again. Scared for our child." "There won't be a next time," David insisted, looking me straight in the eye. "I swear." I shook my head. "Words aren't enough. We need help, professional help." To my surprise, David nodded. "You're right. I'll do whatever it takes. Marriage counseling, anger management, anything." A small flicker of hope sparked inside me, but I remained cautious. "I appreciate that," I said, "but you need to understand. If anything like this ever happens again, I'm gone. No second chances." "I understand," David said, his tone serious. "I'll make the appointment for counseling first thing tomorrow." True to his word, David scheduled our first session. As we sat in the therapist's office, I could feel the tension coming off him. "So, what brings you here today?" the therapist, Dr. Mitchell, asked. David cleared his throat. I hit my wife. It was a terrible mistake, and I want to make sure it never happens again." Dr. Mitchell stayed calm and neutral. "Olivia, how do you feel about what happened?" "Hurt, angry, scared," I said honestly. "I love David, but I don't know if I can trust him anymore." As the session went on, David tried to explain. "Work has been so stressful lately. My boss is pushing me hard about this big deal." "That's not an excuse," Dr. Mitchell gently interrupted. "Stress doesn't justify violence." David's face turned red. "You're right. I know that. I don't know why I reacted that way." "That's what we're here to figure out," Dr. Mitchell said. "David, have you ever had anger issues before?" As David began to talk about his past, I felt mixed emotions. Part of me was glad he was trying, but another part wondered if it was too little, too late. Later in the session, I found my voice growing stronger. "David, you need to understand that your actions have consequences, not just for me, but for our child, for our future." David nodded, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "I know I want to be better, for you and for our baby," David said. "I'll do whatever it takes." As we left the counseling session, I felt a small glimmer of hope. It was a small step, but maybe it was a step in the right direction. In the weeks that followed, I noticed a gradual change in our relationship. The counseling sessions were tough, but eye-opening. We learned to really listen to each other and to share our feelings without blaming. Slowly, we started rebuilding trust. One evening, as we sat on the porch swing, David turned to me. "I've been thinking about the baby's name," he said cautiously. I tensed, remembering our earlier argument. "I realize now how unfair I was," he continued. "This is our child, and we should choose a name we both love. How about we start fresh and make a list together?" A wave of relief washed over me. "I'd like that," I said with a smile. We spent the next hour coming up with name ideas, laughing at the funny ones. It felt good to be on the same team again. As my due date got closer, I saw more positive changes in David. He was more attentive and willing to compromise, though I knew we still had more work to do. One day, I overheard him on the phone with his mother. "No, Mom, we're not naming the baby after you," he said firmly. "Olivia and I have chosen a name together." I felt proud of him for standing up to her. When labor finally began, David was by my side the whole time. After hours of waiting, I held our baby girl in my arms, filled with love and a sense of accomplishment. "Welcome to the world, Arya Hope," I whispered, tears in my eyes. David squeezed my hand. It's perfect, he said softly, just like her. As we settled into life with our newborn, I reflected on how far we had come. The journey hadn't been easy, but we faced our problems head on. We learned how to communicate, respect each other's boundaries, and compromise. Now, I have a question for you. If you were in Olivia's shoes, would you have given David a second chance after he slapped you, or would you have left immediately? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might help someone in a similar situation. If you found this story meaningful, please like the video and subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking content. Your support helps us continue sharing important stories like Olivia's.
You are really useless as a woman. You have no value if you only give birth to girls. Do you understand that? What? During dinner, Shane's sudden outburst made me drop my fork. Sure, we have 3 children, all girls. But I never thought I'd be told I had no value because of that. You should be ashamed that you can't even provide an heir. What is this all about suddenly? Shane's verbal abuse towards me only intensified. For Shane, the most important thing was for me to give birth to a boy, and that was all that mattered. At this point, there's nothing left but for you to leave. You should be grateful for all the care I've given you up until now. I don't recall you ever taking care of me. His one-sided accusations made me fight back. What are you talking about? You can live like this thanks to me. Don't get it twisted. Who's the one getting it twisted? I became a housewife because Shane insisted on it. He interprets everything to suit his convenience. That's the kind of man Shane is. If you think I have no value, what do you want me to do? Ideally, you would leave immediately, but that would be too harsh, so find somewhere to go by tomorrow before I get home. Honestly, I had been considering divorce, and maybe now was the time. By the way, I've already found someone who can give me a son. 6 months later, the woman Shane mentioned gave birth. Why are you calling me? The baby's arm. Shane was at a loss for words, filled with despair. Sensing his despair, I started my revenge. My name is Sabrina, a 42-year-old housewife. I live with my husband, Shane, and our 3 daughters. I was thinking of starting work next month. What? Why? There's no need for that. We can't afford extracurricular activities at this rate, right? That's unnecessary. I just want to let them do what they love. And I can earn the money for that, so it's no problem, right? I pressed on for our daughter's sake. But Shane refused to agree. Moreover, Shane started asking me to take care of his parents. My dad is getting old, so you need to visit regularly to take care of them. Wait a minute. The kids are still young. I can't go there often. So you're saying you don't care what happens to my dad? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's physically hard. You should go instead. Shane began shouting. You should just do as you're told and not talk back. Don't raise your voice so much. You're scaring the kids. So what? That doesn't matter. The kids, terrified by Shane's attitude, started crying. Instead of comforting them, Shane grew more irritated. Shut them up. They're too noisy. It's your fault they're crying. Don't talk like that. Ignoring me, Shane stormed out of the house. It started after our first child was born. Shane had wanted a boy ever since we got married. After the second and third girls were born, Shane lost interest. He kept saying he needed an heir. But Shane's family is just a regular family. This situation was because of his parents' influence. What, a girl? These were the words Shane's parents said when they first saw our daughter. I'll never forget that shock. Since that day, I have disliked my in-laws. But that wasn't all. I heard from Shane that you'd help take care of us? I told him it would be difficult with the kids. They're just girls, right? You promised, so you need to come. But even so, if you had given birth to a boy, things would be different. The gap between me and Shane's family grew wider. Even after that, I kept getting demands from Shane and my in-laws. Eventually, I found some time and went to my in-laws' house. I left the kids with a friend. Unfortunately, my in-laws' house is only a 15-minute drive away. Sabrina, welcome. You finally made it. Come on in. Yes. Veronica, my mother-in-law, welcomed me warmly. Here, have some snacks. A friend gave them to me. Thank you. Nothing strange happened, and I enjoyed my time there. 2 hours passed at my in-laws' house. Oh, you're here. Yes, just visiting. My father-in-law, Todd, returned home. Well, Veronica, shall we? Yes. Then Veronica stood up and said something surprising. You've enjoyed yourself enough, right? Now it's time to work. What do you mean? Just what I said. You came here to help us today. Veronica then treated me like a housekeeper. I had to do cleaning, laundry, and even cooking. Shane said it was caregiving, but they seemed quite healthy to me. Next, it was Todd's turn. Sabrina, can you help me with something? What is it? Can you wash my back? What? My shoulder hurts a bit. Please. This was sexual harassment. Wanting to go home quickly, I decided to comply. But Todd's request wasn't that simple. Why are you still dressed? Washing your back doesn't require undressing. Of course it does. Take your clothes off. I can't do that. We argued for a while until Veronica came in. What are you doing? Todd asked me to undress. Did he say that? Todd quickly turned the tables on me. Do you think I'd say that? She tried to seduce me. What? I didn't think you were that terrible. Trying to seduce Todd because your husband ignores you. I didn't do that. But my words weren't believed, and I was blamed. In the end, I was sent home. I picked up the kids and returned home to find Shane waiting. It seems you caused quite a scene. I quickly realized what Shane was talking about. That's a misunderstanding. Why did I marry such a woman? That's not true. Making excuses at this point is embarrassing. No matter what I said, Shane wouldn't listen. In the end, Shane kept blaming me and then said something troubling. If you're going to do that, you won't mind me doing the same, right? What are you talking about? That's none of your business. With that, Shane laughed and went to the bedroom. I went to the kids' room to put them to bed. Shane came back and said, "Go to my parents' place again next week. They asked for you." After what happened? Exactly. Go apologize. Now, I'm going to bed. I stared at my daughters, unsure of what to do. I didn't want to go back to my in-laws' house. After what happened, I couldn't understand why they wanted me back. But fearing what might happen if I didn't go, I decided to go. The following week, I left the kids with a friend and went to my in-laws' house. We've been waiting. We'll forget about last time. What? There's a lot to do today. If you help with everything, it'll be fine. I thought it was a small price to pay to end things. But it was part of Veronica's plan. Got it. Come with me. Veronica led me to a room that seemed like a storage area. Though I'd been to their house before, I didn't know this room existed. Please organize and clean this room. With that, Veronica locked the door. What are you doing? to make sure you don't escape. I'll let you out when you're done. Good luck. The room was about 125 square feet, filled with cardboard boxes and other clutter. I got to work immediately, trying to clean up as quickly as possible. After about an hour, I checked my smartphone and saw the time. I decided to take a short break and sat down. Why did Shane marry a woman like her, anyway? Well, she does have a pretty face. If only she had given us a boy. Todd, that's all you ever talk about. It's annoying. Yeah. Anyway, we should use her as much as we can. I clenched my fists. I knew they didn't think highly of me, but hearing such awful thoughts made me furious. I worked even harder to finish and get out of that room. 3 hours later, I finally finished cleaning. I knocked on the door to be let out. I'm done cleaning. Can you let me out now? Are you really done? Yes. I did everything you asked. I heard the sound of locks being opened. As I looked at the door, it was more complicated than a normal key. The door had multiple padlocks hanging from it. Seeing that made me feel scared. The room looks much cleaner now. Thanks for your help. It's getting late, so I'll be going now. As I started to gather my things, Veronica grabbed my arm. Who said you could leave? Isn't it over? What are you talking about? The day is just beginning. The nightmare was far from over. Is there more? You only cleaned one room. Next, I need you to clean the bedroom. Are you going somewhere? Yes. Shane invited me to dinner. I wasn't told anything. Well, have fun. My in-laws left, leaving me behind. I had no idea when they would return. Worried about my daughters, I called my friend. Sorry, it's taking longer than expected. Can you watch them a bit longer? No problem, but... My friend's response was hesitant. Is something wrong? I wasn't sure whether to tell you, but... When we went to the park after you left, we saw Shane with a young woman. Are you sure? They looked really happy together. I'm sure it was him. I see. Thanks for telling me. I couldn't stay at my in-laws' house any longer. I rushed out. I headed straight to my friend's house. I didn't care about my in-laws anymore. You're back already? Yeah. I'm done being used by them. And after what you told me. I'm sorry. No, thank you for telling me. It actually helps my plan. Plan? Yes, I've been planning to divorce him eventually. After chatting with my friend, I went home. A few hours later, Shane returned. Why are you here? The kids got sick, so I brought them home quickly. Make sure you take care of them properly. Shane continued to talk down to me. In the past, I would have felt defeated and guilty, but not this time. I remembered what my friend had told me and silently vowed revenge. Shane started coming home late more frequently. I became suspicious and asked him about it. You've been coming home late a lot lately. Is work that busy? Yeah. A colleague messed up, and I have to fix it. I see. I also mentioned what my friend saw. By the way, my friend said she saw you at the park with a young woman. Park? I wouldn't go to that big park. There's no reason to. You're right. It must have been a mistake. Sorry for asking something weird. Seriously. Don't ask stupid questions. I'm busy. But Shane made a mistake. From that conversation, I was sure Shane had been at the park. I decided to gather evidence that he couldn't deny. I had limited means, so I hired a private investigator. It was at that moment. While shopping, I decided to take a route through a part of town I usually avoid. Is that? I saw a familiar face passing by. In a moment of shock, I stood still. When I followed, I saw them enter a hotel. The man looked too much like Shane. The woman looked to be in her 20s. She was dressed in a flashy way that seemed mismatched for Shane. A week later. Here are the results of the investigation. Thank you. So, what did you find? Following him was quite easy. He didn't try to hide. I see. Looking at the photos the detective took, I saw the woman I had seen before. It was definitely Shane. I waited for the right moment to confront him. I didn't confront him immediately because a part of me still hoped Shane might change. Even though he was a terrible man for cheating, he was still the father of my 3 daughters. While I was thinking about that, it happened. You're really useless. You have no value if you only give birth to girls. Do you get it? What? During dinner, Shane's sudden outburst made me drop my fork. Sure, we have 3 children, all girls. But I don't deserve to be told that. You should be ashamed that you can't even provide an heir. What is this all about suddenly? Shane's verbal abuse only intensified. For Shane, the most important thing was for me to give birth to a boy, and that was all that mattered. At this point, there's nothing left but for you to leave. You should be grateful for all the care I've given you up until now. I don't recall you ever taking care of me. His one-sided accusations made me fight back. What are you talking about? You can live like this thanks to me. Don't get it twisted. Who's the one getting it twisted? I became a housewife because Shane insisted on it. He interprets everything to suit his convenience. That's the kind of man Shane is. If you think I have no value, what do you want me to do? Ideally, you would leave immediately, but that would be too harsh, so find somewhere to go by tomorrow before I get home. Honestly, I had been considering divorce, and maybe now was the time. If you think that way, I'll leave. But don't think I'm just going to walk away quietly. What? I pulled out the evidence of his affair that I had hidden. If I'm leaving, I'll make sure to get alimony and child support from the divorce. When did you? It doesn't matter. I don't need to tell you. I quickly packed up my and my daughter's belongings. I'll pay whatever. Just get out of my sight. Don't worry, I will. I left the house and headed to my parents' place. Right now, they were the only ones I could rely on. I hadn't been in much contact since I got married, but I had no choice. Why are you here with so much luggage? I have my reasons. Can I put the kids to bed first and talk later? Sure. After putting the kids to bed, we gathered in the living room. I explained everything to my parents, and they understood. Are you going to be okay? I've thought it through. I think I'll be fine. Stay here as long as you need. Thank you. Later, I went to see a lawyer to discuss the divorce and getting alimony and child support. During this time, my in-laws called, saying they didn't want to be involved. I was busy with all the paperwork, and 2 months flew by. I successfully received alimony and child support from Shane and his mistress through the divorce court. This should give us some stability. However, Shane didn't have that much money, so he had to rely on his parents. Despite saying they didn't want to be involved, my in-laws reluctantly agreed to cover it. The lawyer who visited them told me. They looked bitter, but considering how they treated me, it was only fair. So, is this finally over? Yes. I might need your help from time to time, Mom. Don't worry about it. We're happy to have our granddaughters with us. I was not living a luxurious life, But with the support of my parents, I was able to live peacefully. Both my daughters and I were gradually getting used to life without Shane. One Sunday afternoon, I received a sudden call from Shane. At first, I ignored it, finding it bothersome to answer. But the phone kept ringing. Thinking it was becoming a nuisance, I decided to answer.
Finally, you answered. You should have picked up sooner.
What do you want?
Well, a baby was born.
I felt nothing upon hearing this.
Did you call just to tell me that?
I'm busy, I'm hanging up.
Wait. That's not it.
What do you want to say? Unlike when I first answered, Shane now sounded desperate.
The baby's arm.
What do you mean?
I thought it was going to be a boy.
Shane was in despair, unable to form complete sentences. Judging by his tone, the baby must have been a girl. For someone who always wanted a boy, it must have been quite a disappointment. I almost laughed. Shane started to explain.
She lied to me. She said it was going to be a boy, but it turned out to be a girl.
It seems the mistress knew Shane wanted a boy and lied to him about it. I thought it was incredibly foolish of her. She should have known that once the baby was born, the truth would be revealed. Shane couldn't accept that the baby was a girl and tried to break up with her. But the mistress resisted, and now things were out of control.
Sounds like you're in a tough spot.
Yes.
I knew you'd understand.
I'm not happy hearing that from you.
Don't say that.
Can I hang up now?
Wait. Can we start over?
What? His request was baffling and made me angry.
Why would I do that? You chose her over me, remember? And didn't you say a woman who can't bear a son is worthless? I did say that, but I realize I was wrong.
How convenient for him to say that. Just because things don't go his way, he thinks he can do whatever he wants. I laughed bitterly.
Who would take you back? I haven't forgiven you for what you did.
I spoke to Shane with anger. But Shane persisted. It was getting tiring, so I decided to change the subject.
By the way, Whitney, right? How do you know that name? Did you forget? I investigated you too. So what? Do you know who she really is?
What? When I hired a detective, I learned the truth about her. Shane probably didn't know.
Did you know she's married?
What are you talking about?
She's currently separated, but she hasn't divorced yet. She never told me that. Maybe she couldn't.
I don't know. Shane's voice trembled with anger.
Why didn't you tell me sooner?
Because it's not my concern.
Don't joke with me.
Say what you want.
I also know where her husband is.
What are you going to do? Wait and see. With that, I hung up. I immediately contacted Whitney's husband with the information I got from the detective. I explained the situation and suggested he sue for infidelity. It seemed he was looking for a reason to divorce her and thanked me. 2 weeks passed. I think it's time to move out.
Really?
You're welcome to stay longer.
I know, but I can't rely on you forever.
Then the doorbell rang.
Oh.
Who could it be? Mom went to check the door. But she didn't come back for a while. Instead, I could hear voices under an argument. Mom, what's going on? I went to the door and felt a cold sweat seeing who was there.
So, here you are.
What are you doing here?
I'm here to take my daughters back.
What?
Because of you, things got really bad. Whitney's husband showed up and sued us. Now we have to pay alimony and child support.
It seemed my plan had worked. They were on the path to bankruptcy.
My family has suffered because of you.
That's not my concern. What happened to Whitney?
She disappeared after her husband found out about the affair.
Whitney had been caught cheating by her husband and left Shane. All Shane was left with were the payments for alimony and child support from the divorce court.
Mom, enough. We're here for the kids.
Right. Let's go. With that, the three of them started to push their way into the house.
What do you think you're doing? Move aside.
With that, Shane shoved me. I couldn't brace myself and fell to the floor. Raising 3 kids alone must be too much for you. Let us take over.
I'm not handing my daughters over to you. Besides, I have full custody. This is kidnapping. Shut up. Stay out of this.
I asked Mom to call the police while I struggled to fend them off. I couldn't let these crazy people take my daughters. Soon, police sirens blared in the distance.
You're not getting away now. You!
Shane raised his hand to strike me. But 2 police officers grabbed him firmly.
Who are you? Let go of me!
It was futile. Shane and his parents were escorted to the police cars. As they were taken away, they glared at me. I smiled back at them. Finally, I felt like peace was within reach. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't expect it to come to this. But we managed. What a horrible family. The 3 of them were given restraining orders. But I wasn't naive enough to think this was the end. As I had told Mom before, I decided we needed to move. Because of those 3. You never knew when they might try to take my daughters again. Are you sure about this? Yes. I can't stay here and risk our safety. And I need to protect my daughters and you. Visit us whenever you can. I will. I was worried about the constant changes for my daughters. But they seemed excited about moving to a new place. So, we moved. I thought peace had finally arrived, but...
Hey! You moved, didn't you?
So what? I can't have people like you around.
I'll find you no matter what.
If you do, you might end up in jail. If you're okay with that, go ahead.
You'll regret this.
I doubt it. I hung up and blocked his number. After that, Shane never tried to contact us again. I heard from others that Shane and his parents had become the talk of the neighborhood and had to move as well. Unable to pay the alimony, they were working desperately to make ends meet. They would probably live their lives being whispered about. By the way, about that strange thing I mentioned before. Oh, that? Don't worry. It's all resolved. Really? Yes, relax. I'll bring the girls to visit you soon. I planned to visit the friend who had set everything in motion and thank her. Now, I could look forward to a bright future with my daughters. Christopher's family home was on the top floor of a grand condominium complex. Amanda, the single mother who raised Christopher, greeted us at the door. She was a successful CEO with an aura of a beautiful, bewitching woman. As I stood nervously in front of this incredible lady, Christopher looked at me, laughed, and said,
"She may be plain, but she'll make a good housekeeper."
Thanks for showing off my skills at housework, honey. As the conversation livened up, Amanda remarked, "I'd love to see your family home." Of course, I'd be delighted. I'll do my best to be a gracious host. Please make yourself at home and relax. It sounds like it will be a fun little getaway, Amanda. My name is Sarah, and I'm 28 years old. After graduating high school, I moved to the city for college and started living on my own. Later, I got a job at a design firm. No matter how many years pass, I can't get used to the crowds, but I enjoy both my work and living independently. My boyfriend of 1 year is named Christopher. I love your unpretentious, down-to-earth nature and your slightly ditzy side. That's the kind of compliment he always gives me. He's also a reliable colleague at work. He's serious and strict when it comes to his job. He's kind, too, like when he defends me from intimidating older coworkers. He's a man with so many good qualities. Today, he invited me out to dinner, saying he had something to talk about. I wonder what's up. He usually likes to come over to my apartment and eat my home cooking, so why go out of his way to make reservations at a restaurant? Could it be a proposal? Is it okay for me to get my hopes up? Maybe it's too soon? The restaurant we arrived at, full of anticipation, had a high-class exterior. Wow, how fancy! I couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Christopher lowly said, "It's a full-course meal, but..." "Sarah, are you okay with this kind of place?" "Yeah. I'm not a picky eater," I replied with a smile, although I was a bit puzzled by Christopher's unusual gaze. The poised staff brought out one dish at a time. Wine was poured into large glasses, and the equally large plates were adorned with bite-sized delicacies. They were drizzled with a mysterious sauce I could never make myself, and the flavor was indescribably delicious. Even so, I couldn't shake the feeling that Christopher had been staring at me intently for a while now. "Is something wrong?" "No, it's nothing," he replied. Could he be waiting for the right moment to propose? I felt like my heart might burst with anticipation before the end of the course. As dessert arrived, Christopher said with a smile, "You passed." "Passed what? And was there a possibility of failing?" "I was evaluating you," he explained. "What do you mean?" "Your cooking skills are decent, you're neat and tidy, and your table manners are impeccable. You're simple and modest, but those are desirable qualities in a wife." He took out a small box and showed me the contents, much to my surprise. "I want you to marry me." I knew it. As my eyes sparkled with joy, Christopher slipped the ring onto my finger. "I'd like to introduce you to my parents. I want you to come to my home. You'll meet them, won't you?" I had no reason to refuse. I nodded, gazing dreamily at the glittering ring. Christopher told me he only had his mother, Amanda. His parents had divorced when he was in elementary school. His mother raised Christopher as a single mom. After the divorce, she started a diet food company on her own, and its mail order sales are top class. She's now a female CEO with 10 employees. Apparently, there's a secret to business that only Amanda knows. I wonder what kind of person she is. I'm looking forward to meeting her. The day arrived quickly. It's my first family meeting, of course, so I'm really nervous. I have to make sure I don't do anything rude. I chose a dress that was more elegant than usual. I'm especially prone to careless mistakes, as even Christopher admits. "Are you nervous, by any chance?" Christopher asked as he walked beside me. "Not at all," I lied, not wanting him to worry. Then he said, "Haven't you noticed?" "Noticed what?" "Your face is stiff, and your walking is awkward. Smile like you always do." Seeing his smile as he said that made me smile too. My whole body relaxed as the tension left me. I must have been quite tense in the shoulders. "I'm sorry, I actually am nervous. It's been a while since I've worn heels, too." "You don't need to apologize." "I'm clumsy, so I was worried about making a blunder." "It'll be fine. If you're my fiancé, my mom will like you." Being called his fiancé made me embarrassed and nervous again. But looking into his kind eyes calmed me down. He really is special to me. I take a deep breath and compose myself. I'll trust Christopher, who said he likes me as I am, without pretenses. Christopher's family home was on the top floor of a grand condominium complex. A spacious entrance and large windows with a great view. A chandelier hung in the all-white room. It was like a model room. Amanda, who greeted us, was what you'd call an ageless beauty. She had a dignified presence, with an aura of a female CEO. Was the height of her teased bangs a symbol of her nobility? When she moved, she carried her own actress light. Amazing, too amazing. Her commitment to beauty was thorough. I sat down in a chair at her urging. Being observed from head to toe made me nervous again. "Where are your parents, dear?" "In New England." "I thought so. You have a country face." "That's amazing." "You can tell?" "Well, yes. You're plain, after all." Amanda stared intently at my face. I stared back, wondering if I could hide my country face if I put on makeup as carefully as her. Her false eyelashes fluttered dramatically. "Christopher, is this the type of girl you like?" "Haha, she may be plain, but she'll make a good housekeeper," Christopher said, showing off my housekeeping skills. "That's right, we'll need her to at least be a housekeeper," Amanda chimed in. "These days, it's normal for women to work and do housework. If you think you can rely on your husband, you're sorely mistaken. You should learn from me, who succeeded as a CEO while raising a child alone." I nodded as I listened to her. I have great respect for women who have their own opinions. Personally, I believe that a married couple should help each other. But it's okay for everyone to have their own ideas, right? "Do you have any special skills, dear?" "I'm good at cooking. I learned from my family." I see. "I focus on nutritional balance and use ingredients without wasting them. I put a lot of thought into it." "Ah. I see. You're just as I imagined." "Really? That makes me happy." "Well, you do have a poor-looking face." "A poor-looking face? Is that a compliment?" Christopher, sitting next to me, had his usual smile on his face. "Hey, just now. What's wrong?" "No, it's nothing." Maybe I misheard her. Surely she wouldn't call me poor to my face when we just met. I hate being patient, you know. Huh? I hate it, so I worked hard to become rich. I see. Before I knew it, Amanda was holding a large wine glass. She downed the vivid ruby-colored liquid in one go. Is she drunk? For me, wine is like water. Is that so? It's a CEO's taste. Is that right? You're 30 years too early to talk about wine on the same level as me. I see. That's right. Don't you think it takes a lot of money for a person to mature like fine wine? Huh? Is that so? What do you think? I'm not quite sure what she's talking about. For now, I'll just ignore the wine talk. My parents taught me that money should be used carefully. Ha! That's good. You should use your money carefully and little by little, just as your parents told you. When the time comes, quit your current job and come help out at my company, okay? I'll think about it. Just to be clear, it's helping out, okay? You understand? Don't expect to be paid. Oh, so that's what she meant. If it's just helping out, I probably don't need to quit my job. It shouldn't be a problem. Yes. I understand. Good answer. When the time comes, I'll teach you the secrets of business that only I know. Are you sure? Thank you so much. Ho ho ho, you're so naturally amusing. I bet you grew up in a laid-back countryside. I'd love to see your family home. Sure, why not? Huh? please come visit my family home. If it's Amanda's request, I definitely want to fulfill it. I invited the two of them to my family home. They're going to be relatives, so I'm sure my parents back home will welcome them warmly. But for some reason, she refused. Why not? That's not what I meant when I said that. She said she wanted to see it, so there's no need to hold back. I won't give up. Come on, please come visit. No way, the countryside is so inconvenient, right? But didn't you say you wanted to see my family home? Well, yes, but I'll do my best to be a great host. We have freshly picked vegetables and fruits. They're delicious and good for your beauty too. But we can pick lots of truffles, and you can eat as much as you want. What? I can eat truffles all I want. Hearing that, Amanda happily agreed. When I called my parents, they were of course very welcoming. You're bringing your fiancé? How exciting! My mother, Megan, was surprised but overjoyed. What? His mother is a CEO? We have to make sure not to be rude. My father, Brian, was flustered. I'm looking forward to it too. Please take good care of them. I asked them to provide a polite reception for my future husband and his particular mother. The day before our departure. Hey, what kind of place is Sarah's family home? Christopher asked. What do you mean? It's just normal. I'm not good with the countryside, you know. What? I was shocked. That fact can't be changed. It must be inconvenient to get around, right? Shopping and stuff must be a hassle too. That's true. I definitely wouldn't want to live there. I couldn't respond. Was he always the type to say things like this? Having my hometown casually insulted hurt me a bit, I have to admit. I decided to ask him about something that had been bothering me these past few days. You've been kind of different lately. What do you mean? Ever since we went to your family home for the family meeting, your attitude has been cold, or maybe harsh. You've been saying more things that concern me. He let out an exaggerated sigh. I'm amazed by you. I was just stating my opinion. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. If you're going to be my wife, you should understand me, right? You're right. This is why people from the countryside are. What should I do? I put him in a bad mood. I said it the wrong way. Being from the countryside and understanding your future husband are unrelated, aren't they? I still don't feel satisfied, but tomorrow is already the day we leave. Just like I was, maybe Christopher is nervous too. I'm sure that's it. It's okay, don't worry. I've already made preparations. And my parents are so kind, I'm sure they'll make him feel so at home he won't want to leave. Let's overwrite that negative image of the countryside. Departure day. Of course, we specified business class for the flight, and we're finally heading to my family home. I was tricked by the truffles. I shouldn't have said I'd go. Amanda kept muttering to herself. She must be tired from work, poor thing. If she sees the clear air and wide open skies of the countryside, I'm sure she'll feel refreshed. The countryside is nice in a different way from the city. Huh? I think you will like it too. Like what? I bet even if you want to go shopping, there aren't any decent stores, right? That's true. Plus, it takes quite a while by car. The countryside has nothing, unlike the city. Shall we do a room tour? The house and garden are spacious, so it's fun. Huh? Houses in the countryside are just big, right? At that moment, Christopher came to my rescue. Now, Mom, let's at least go see it once. Well, I suppose so. After all, we'll be relying on her as a daughter-in-law from now on. Exactly. If Christopher says so, I guess I have no choice. Thank goodness. Thanks to Christopher, her mood seems to have improved. But I'm envious of how close they are as parent and child. They told jokes to make me laugh several times before we reached our destination. Christopher suddenly said to me, "I'm always troubled because you are so easygoing." To which Amanda jokingly replied, "Isn't it because of the time difference between the countryside and the city?" Ahahaha. There's no time difference, that's funny. I know that. Sheesh. She really has a great sense of humor. Later on, Christopher said, "Mom, the luggage looks heavy, and I'm heavy too." And Amanda chimed in, "Yes, I wonder if there's a daughter-in-law somewhere who can carry our heavy luggage." They seem to be in a pickle. Yeah, I wonder where. What a truly troubling problem indeed. Where could we find a daughter-in-law who can carry lots of luggage? We had a fun time with that kind of banter. Perhaps because of the long journey, the two of them seemed to be in a bad mood. I should let them relax at my family home soon. When the plane arrived at the airport, a car from my family home was there to pick us up. "Welcome back," the driver said as he opened the door. Christopher seemed curious about the driver and asked, "Is that Sarah's dad?" "No, it can't be, right?" So I replied, "Yeah. He's our private driver." They looked surprised when I said that. "Private driver." Hearing that, Amanda said, "They probably hire one because you can't go anywhere without a car in the countryside. It's not unusual there. I bet your parents surrendered their driver's licenses." I see, that makes sense. My parents are still going strong with cars and other vehicles, but there's no need to correct her every little thing. After driving for a while, familiar scenery came into view. "We're here," I said. "Huh? Where?" "There's still more to go, right?" The two of them looked around. At first glance, it looked like a tree-lined path, but we had already passed through the gate to the house. "Wait, we're already on the property?" "Yes, we'll drive a bit further. It's quite a distance to the front door. It's like we're in a forest." "That's right. The gardener takes care of it every day, but it's still not enough." "Well, it's the countryside, so it's not unusual, right?" I wonder what's wrong. Her voice is trembling. Could it be car sickness? When the car stopped at the front door, she stared at the building with her mouth agape. I'm worried she might be feeling unwell after all. "Amanda, are you okay?" "This is your family home?" "Yes. It was just rebuilt, so it's new." Next to her, Christopher muttered, "It's so huge." "It's 0.2 acres, but since it's only one story, it's nothing special. It's like a maze, so it's fun. It's just big, that's all." Seeing the woman who greeted us, "Welcome back," while taking my luggage at the front door. Christopher asked, "Who's that?" "That's Hannah, our housekeeper." "Housekeeper?" The two of them stared intently at Hannah as she greeted them. "She's also my teacher who taught me cooking, sewing, piano, and violin." "Then it's no wonder you have good table manners." "It's the countryside, so it's not unusual." "Mom, do people in the countryside usually have housekeepers?" "Be quiet. You're being unsightly. If you're my son, carry yourself with confidence." "Okay." "After all, you're just a country bumpkin." "That's right, that's why." "Well, I know you must be tired, but let's go on the room tour we promised right away." I have nothing to hide, so I want them to see everything. First is my father's prized art collection. Apparently, it's valued at $50,000. Then there's the theater room, sauna, and private gym. Oh? Is this a study? It's locked. Looks like they've added on again. Every time I come back, there are more rooms. You said your house was normal, but there's no way it's normal with such a big house. Are you rich? Christopher asks as we walk down the long hallway. Let me ask you instead, isn't your house not normal? My house is richer than normal, right? My mom is a CEO, after all. What is normal, I wonder? With that thought, I continue down the hallway. I show the two of them to the guest room, designed to resemble a resort hotel. Please stay here tonight. Stay? No, we're going back, right, Mom? No way. I prepared top quality shampoo and other amenities just for you two. Sorry, but my mom says she wants to get back to the city as soon as possible. Right, Mom? Well, if it's like this, it's not so bad. She seems to like it. Since they've come all this way, I want them to relax and heal from their daily fatigue. I'll ask Hannah to give them her specialty foot reflexology massage too. Afterward, I guide them to the living room where my parents are waiting. After the formal greetings, Amanda takes out a long, thin box. I'm so happy she went out of her way to bring a gift. Inside is what looks like an expensive wine. Oh my! Thank you so much. I'm delighted. To my overjoyed mother, Amanda says. I couldn't come empty-handed, could I? This is a rare wine, almost too good for those who can't appreciate its taste. Hearing that, my mother happily says, I love wine too. So much that I personally import it. Import? I import from overseas wineries and sell it to French restaurants, hotels, and such. Oh, I see. My mother talks about wine with great enthusiasm. Apparently, the room they added on earlier is a wine cellar. It's all wine. It's our inventory, and also our collection. Oh, I see. Amanda says, her voice trembling with admiration. I know, why don't you join me for a wine tasting sometime? My mother suggests, her eyes sparkling. Amanda, that's great. Please talk about wine with my mother to your heart's content. If our schedules align, I'd love to. My mother, with her extensive wine knowledge, should be more than a sufficient conversation partner. I want them to chat as much as they like. My father says, for dinner, our housekeeper has prepared dishes brimming with truffles and red wine, putting her best effort into it. Truffles, wine. Mom, if you drink, it'll be too late to go back. You said you absolutely hate staying in the countryside. Be quiet. We can think about that after we eat. If you're worried about time, I can take you back in my helicopter. It's faster than flying back. I just built a heliport nearby. What? A helicopter? Yes, a helicopter. It's my hobby. Oh no, Amanda suddenly seems to be getting dizzy. Supporting her, Christopher says, this is definitely not a normal house. Abruptly, Amanda's eyes widen. I've decided. She grabs my surprised parents' hands and excitedly says, let's talk business. Huh? I'm worried about whether my company will be accepted in the countryside, but with your money. I mean, your influence, there's no need to worry. With your sons, we'll be secure. It's not a bad deal, right? Amanda suddenly becomes lively. My parents are stunned. If you can make the company big enough to succeed in the countryside, I'll even hand it over to you as is. No, Are you dissatisfied with something? I guess you're worried about spending your golden years in a place like this. Well, if you want to live comfortably in the city, I can at least support you in moving. I'll even lend you Sarah from time to time.
Amanda speaks rapidly, one thing after another, in work mode. Next to her, Christopher wears an exaggerated smile.
By the way, what kind of company is it?
My mother asks the excited Amanda. As if she was waiting for this, she starts explaining about the diet food. Then my mother says,
I also sell beauty-related products. Diet products have really evolved, haven't they?
Amanda is surprised. Earlier, didn't you say your business was selling wine?
I just started with wine recently. Oh my! You're active in many areas, how wonderful! Oh no, not at all. I have high hopes for your work.
Amanda tries to take my mother's hand, but my father gently stops her.
Let's discuss that another time, at a leisurely pace. Today, let's forget about work.
We decided to have them relax in their room until dinner was ready. I can hear Amanda muttering, if it's like this, I wouldn't mind staying over again. Nothing could make me happier than knowing her negative feelings toward the countryside have lessened. Around the time the table setting was finished, Hannah called out to me.
Please come with me.
She took me to the guest room. I thought she had come to call us because dinner was ready, but I'm told to wait in front of the door.
Excuse me,
Hannah says as she enters the room alone. Oh, you're the housekeeper, right? Are you here for the foot reflexology massage?
Yes, that's right.
Please, go ahead. What should I do here? I can hear the conversation inside the room. The one who spoke was Hannah.
I have something to discuss with you. I would like you to pretend this marriage never happened. Huh?
Hey, what's a mere housekeeper saying? Christopher interjects with a half laugh. Be quiet.
What?
Watch your mouth.
What?
What in the world is she saying? I'm so shocked I can't even speak. You seem to know some wonderful secrets of the trade.
What are you trying to say?
Also, both of you have impure relationships. It seems you have many close friends of the opposite sex.
Hey! What is this? Did you hire a private investigator? This is a violation of privacy.
Don't try to play it off. Background checks before marriage are normal. What does this mean? Is it true? Even as I panic, I can't stop listening to the conversation through the door.
What do you want?
Huh?
Fine. Quit being a housekeeper in this backwater and come work for me. Ow!
Your liver is in bad shape. It seems she's in the middle of the foot reflexology massage.
I decline.
Why? I have high expectations for you, having witnessed this family's business. You understand what I mean, right? I'll pay you a lot.
Your company is already done. Huh?
The secret to business, was it? I'm sure counterfeit products sell well.
How do you know about that? Ow! Stop pressing!
Running a business bordering on fraud like that will ruin you eventually.
I won't stand for you calling it counterfeits and fraud. What's wrong with making money smartly?
Smartly? Don't you mean dishonestly?
Ow!
That's the pressure point that hurts when you lie.
Huh?
I caught my breath. The color drained from my face. Not only because of the content of the conversation, but also because I know that Hannah's foot reflexology massage is incredibly painful.
Ow! Please, stop! No more!
Hearing Amanda's scream, I can't hold back and burst into the room. Hannah. Christopher is surprised by my sudden appearance, but he quickly rushes over to me. Listen to me.
This woman is trying to trap my mother. At this rate, my marriage with Sarah will be ruined too. Christopher pleads with tears in his eyes. The company will be mine eventually. Even if you are an idiot, you should understand, right? Protecting my mother means protecting our future. When your parents come to the city they admire, they'll be dependent on me and my mother. You should mediate and handle things well, don't you think? Even as I'm taken aback by Christopher's rapid-fire speech, there's something I want to make clear. You see, my parents handed over the company they ran in the city to my brother and moved to the countryside to relax. What? So they don't have any longing for the city. They weren't just wealthy people from the countryside? Why do you have such prejudice and an infiltration feeling toward the countryside? I don't understand you anymore. Is it true that you have other women you're close with? Do you truly love me? My questions seem to get on his nerves, and Christopher raises his voice. Shut up! I never thought you were this kind of woman. Instead of answering when I asked if he loved me, he threw harsh words at me. I'm stunned. I'm so shocked I can't speak. Please stop, Hannah said. You stay out of this. Christopher snaps, his attitude completely changed. What are you trying to do? Hannah doesn't back down. What? I'm Sarah's future husband. No, you're wrong. She firmly retorts to the glaring Christopher. You're a con artist who looks down on people and has no qualms about deceiving them. Did you hear that? She called us con artists. That's terrible to say to your future husband, isn't it? Christopher stares at me. That's right, it's terrible, Amanda said. Hearing that, I said, yes. It's unbelievable. That's what I said. Right? You should fire this housekeeper. No, this marriage is unbelievable. What? What? Didn't you hear me? I absolutely refuse this marriage. What? I'm the one who requested the background check. I asked an agency through Hannah. You did, Sarah? Why? You couldn't trust me? Christopher asks in a trembling voice. Ever since you invited me to dinner, it's been bothering me. I wondered if I was really making the right choice with this person. For that long? That's right. Why? I told you that you passed. I let out a wry laugh at the overly desperate Christopher. Then, you've been failing since long ago. What? How dare you? Amanda interjects. Just how upstanding do you think you are? Aren't you ashamed? Wah, wah. They seem to be at a loss for words. How dare you? Don't say that to my mother. Take it back. Even as he yells at me, the resolute me is surprisingly unaffected. I'm not scared at all. If anything, I just think he's the worst for treating a woman this way. First, can you take back what you said to me? Everything, without leaving anything out, about being a housekeeper or having a poor-looking face. You deceived me. That's your true nature. You were hiding it. That's my line. You suddenly started treating me roughly after meeting Amanda. Is it because you got an ally and became more aggressive? Don't get carried away. I calmly stare at Christopher, who's furiously turning red in the face. I'm disillusioned by you, saying petty things about the city and the countryside. I'll make sure a plain woman like you can't even stay at the company, so be prepared. Aren't you ashamed of putting on airs so arrogantly when you don't even have that kind of authority? The two of them glare at me, breathing heavily. I'm truly amazed. I'm leaving. If I stay in this countryside any longer, I'll start smelling like dirt.
I hate it. Amanda grabs her luggage and coat while saying things that sound like a child's insults. Hearing that, my parents hurriedly come over and ask, "What's wrong?" "There's nothing wrong. If you're leaving, please take this with you," my mother says, handing over a paper bag. "Oh? Truffles? You wrapped them for me?" "No, it's the wine you brought." "What?" my mother says apologetically. "This wine has been stored carelessly and is in too poor of a condition. I don't want to keep such a thing in the house, so please take it back with you." "Huh? You're telling me to take back what I gave you?" "Rather, I'm surprised you even brought such a worthless wine." "Wah? Your value is the same as this wine." My mother, who's not good at jokes, says something outrageous with a smile. The two of them have strained expressions on their faces. But I don't follow up on it at all. With this final blow, the two of them, unable to say anything back, left in frustration. They wouldn't listen even if we tried to stop them and seemed to be running away. However, it takes 3 hours to walk to the airport from here, and the bus has a 2-hour wait. I think we should have at least called them a taxi, but we're not involved with them anymore, so they can do as they like. My parents seem puzzled as to why the two of them suddenly left. While showing them the background check report, I tell them I'll explain everything later, so for now, let's enjoy the truffles. Afterward, of course, I returned the ring, and the engagement was treated as if it never happened. My parents didn't ask for details, but I'm sure they understand everything. I feel bad for Hannah, who prepared various things, but she said, "Next time, bring your partner to me sooner. I'll assess them for you." Since she said something so reassuring, I'll take her up on that offer without hesitation. By the way, ever since I was a student, my parents told me many times, no matter how much you love someone, make sure to do a background check on your marriage partner for the sake of your future. To avoid getting hurt. I didn't understand what they meant at the time, but now I'm grateful. If I had married him like that, I'm sure I would have had a married life full of regrets. My parents, who are very calm now, have done business while being caught up in the hustle and bustle of the city. They must have seen through Amanda's shallowness. They taught me that work should be done properly. After a while, I received an apology from Christopher. "I only have you, Sarah. My mom is a straightforward person." He came clinging to me like that, but it makes no sense. What did I even like about this person? Did Amanda tell you to say that, by any chance? What? No? She told you to keep me on the hook because I'm rich and might be useful? Huh? How do you know? I can see right through your shallow thinking. I didn't think he was such a terrible man. I realized how poor my judgment was. He's a self-conscious person trapped by his prejudices, unable to go against his mother. Together with Amanda, the trouble is doubled. He's the worst as a marriage partner. Unless he realizes it and changes, he'll fail at the family meeting stage no matter who he dates. Do your best. Don't contact me again. With that, I blocked his number. When I told my company about the situation, I was transferred to a department on a different floor that I had been hoping for, so I don't have to worry about seeing him anymore. That's right. Since my new department doesn't have colleagues who are particular about appearance, I should stop dressing plain and be more fashionable. Actually, I really like flashy clothes and makeup. By the way, Christopher's reputation within the company has greatly fallen. I didn't tell anyone at my family home about what happened. Christopher talked about it himself. Even with a poor-looking face, her family home is rich. I thought I had found a good housekeeper, though. It's no wonder his reputation dropped if he's talking loudly like that. He probably won't find a marriage partner within this company.
There's no point in taking over Amanda's failing company now. A city condominium is nice, but comfort and sense of value are different for everyone, so it's wrong to complain or deny them. What is normal? It's not good to force your idea of normal on others. I love the one-room apartment I live in now too. It's my own castle. No one can decide superiority, inferiority, pass, or fail for someone else. Everyone is different, and everyone is good. Didn't we all learn that when we were little? Their house is theirs, and our house is ours. My daughter Emma was getting married, and we were off to a family meeting. When we entered the designated room, Phil Henry and Mil Lauren were already seated. They looked like they were in the middle of a conversation, smirking unpleasantly. Looking at the table, I noticed that only 3 settings were prepared on our side. I realized this was their sly way of harassing us. "Please, take a seat." "Oh, just the 2 of you? We're a single-mother household," I replied, lifting the corners of my eyes, trying to stay calm. But Lauren let out a mocking laugh. "Oh, that's right. Maybe you should take this in a food storage container? Single mothers are poor, right?" Lauren covered her mouth, trying to suppress her laughter. Despite her harsh words, I kept my expression unchanged. Seeing enough, Emma tapped my shoulder. "That's awful. Mom, let's go." "Why leave?" "If it means you, who've sacrificed everything for me, have to suffer, I'd rather not get married." Touched by Emma's kindness, I smiled. "It's okay. Just wait a bit." Then, an employee came from behind with a food storage container. "Here, please take this home," he offered to Lauren. Henry and Lauren were taken aback, stunned. "If being poor is about low income, please, take it." "Huh? My name is Rachel. In my 50s, I feel like I've reached the midpoint of my life, living in a slightly spacious single-family home with my daughter, Emma. When Emma is at school, I sometimes feel a pang of loneliness in the quiet of our living room. That's when I make it a ritual to prepare 2 mugs of tea, one for me and the other for my late husband, Nathan. Pouring tea for Nathan and imagining he might be with me brings comfort. Nathan was diagnosed with cancer about 20 years ago and passed away suddenly as we were about to start his treatment. On his deathbed, he implored me to take care of Emma. She must become someone admirable. At that time, Emma was too young to remember much about her dad. To fulfill my promise to Nathan and to prevent Emma from feeling lonely or sad, I raised her single-handedly, balancing work, household duties, and parenting. Despite being a single mother, I managed to send Emma to college. Emma grew up to be academically excellent, beautiful, and a genuinely kind and wonderful woman. She's my pride and joy. After graduating, she got a job and started living on her own. I can't always rely on you, Mom. It's time I do something in return for what you've done for me. Don't worry about me, just do your best. Eat properly, don't stay up too late, and... Come on, I'm not a child anymore. What are you saying? You'll always be my precious child. The night before she moved out, Emma and I stayed up late, talking about the past, the future, and about her dad. We never ran out of memories to share, losing track of time. Even after Emma started living by herself, she would send various texts to my mobile phone. She would complain about unpacking, cooking, training at work, and colleagues. Each text made me feel as if Emma was right beside me, probably feeling lonely in her new life. But as time passed, the texts became less frequent. I assumed that Emma was finding her own way. I guess Emma is doing well. The lack of texts seemed to prove that Emma's days were fulfilling. And even the tea I brewed for Nathan seemed to nod in agreement. A year and a half after Emma started her job, I received a call from her. She sounded happy.
"It's been a while,"
she said.
"Mom, there's someone I want you to meet next Sunday. Do you have some time?"
"Oh, it's been a while. Yes, I do have some time on Sunday."
"Then, I'll come home on Sunday. Is noon okay?"
"Yes, that's fine. Be careful coming here."
"It's been a while since I've seen you. You'll be surprised. Bye."
After saying that, Emma hung up, and I stared silently at the screen. I wondered how long it had been since we last talked on the phone. Her unusually happy tone over the phone intrigued me, but when Sunday came, I was indeed surprised, just as Emma had said. At the door was Emma and a young man named Ryan. Ryan was not dressed casually but in a casual suit, looking slightly nervous. "Nice to meet you. I'm Ryan, and I've been seeing Emma for a while now." Ryan, who introduced himself, was tall with features like a movie star, and came off as a very polite and good young man. "Nice to meet you. Please, come in." After inviting them into the living room and making tea, we sat at the table where Emma gave an update and introduced him. Then, Emma said shyly, "So, Mom, the reason I wanted you to meet him is because we are thinking about getting married." Married? Though I had anticipated it, the fact that Emma had found someone still surprised me internally. I kept my composure, looking at Ryan, who now had a more serious expression. "Yes. I proposed to Emma recently, and I wanted to meet you, her mom." I paused for a moment before responding, and I said, "I see. I didn't know Emma has been seeing someone as wonderful as you." "Ryan, Emma doesn't have a dad, and I raised her by myself." "Yes, Emma told me she grew up in a household without a father. Emma is my treasure, my precious daughter. Can you promise to protect her and make her happy?" "Of course. I am confident that I can make Emma happier than anyone else in this world," Ryan answered firmly, without flinching at my stern attitude. Had he hesitated, I might not have approved of their marriage. "All right. Please take good care of Emma." Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other, relieved, and smiled happily. Seeing them like this made me smile too. I think Nathan would have smiled in the same way if he were here. Months after sending off a happy Emma and Ryan, Emma took a long break and came home. She happily talked about her work and Ryan, but occasionally she looked troubled. When asked, she'd quickly change the subject, saying, "It's nothing, Mom." Whenever Emma wants to talk about something or lies, she shrugs her shoulders. This time, Emma did it again, so I was sure something had happened.
"Hey, Emma. How about we try that new place? It's a brand new cafe here."
I showed her the screen of my mobile phone. Her eyes lit up at the sight of the cafe.
"Ah, I wanted to go there. The coffee is popular, everyone at work says it's good. Then it's settled."
The next day, Emma and I walked to the cafe. After ordering coffee to go, we walked for a while. "Mom, thank you for accepting my marriage with Ryan.
He seems sincere. Take good care of each other, Emma."
When we reached a large park, Emma started to talk. "Actually, I went to the in-laws' house. I feel like I'm not well liked by them." Emma's story went back a month. When she visited the in-laws' house, Henry and Lauren seemed skeptical at first glance. "Nice to meet you, I'm Emma. I'm dating Ryan."
"Hey, Ryan. Are you sure about her?"
Lauren interrupted Emma's greeting. "What do you mean?" "Well, she looks rather plain, doesn't she? Her clothes, her makeup, it all screams poverty. She doesn't match you at all." Without a word of congratulations, they blatantly insulted Emma. "Mom, that's rude. You shouldn't talk about my girlfriend like that. Don't you think so too?" Lauren sought agreement from Henry, who was sitting next to her, and Henry nodded in affirmation. "Ah. Is your family that poor? Do your parents work?" "My mom works, and my dad passed away when I was young." "Single mother, huh? I figured as much," Henry said with a strangely satisfied look and scoffed. "Dad? It must be for the money. We come from a respectable family. You should stay away from a woman like that." "How can you say that? Emma is not like that. I know her best. Ryan just doesn't realize yet that there are many who would want to marry you for our assets." And then, he even suggested introducing Ryan to a daughter of an acquaintance. Lauren agreed with this proposal, pleased with the idea. That would be better. After all, we know someone respectable who works for a major company. Not a match for a single mother's family. Don't you think so, Ryan? Seeing Lauren happily agree, Ryan raised his voice. "Enough from both of you, Dad and Mom." The conversation went nowhere, and Ryan and Emma left the house. Ryan later told me that Henry and Lauren have a strong sense of elitism. "Emma, I'm really sorry. My parents said such awful things and hurt you." Emma was apologized to multiple times by Ryan, who promised to always protect her. Sitting on a park bench listening to this, I had to suppress my anger from exploding. "So, what do Ryan's parents say about the marriage?" "Last week, we went to their house again. We faced some snide remarks, but Ryan convinced them, and they agreed to our marriage." "Are you okay with that, Emma?" Emma bit her lip and shrugged. "Yeah, it's okay. We won't be living with them, and I can endure it." "Is that so?" It was clear that the relationship between Ryan's parents and Emma was strained. Even with Ryan's protection, there would be limits. Knowing they would face hardships, I wished I could advise them to reconsider the marriage. But having already given my blessing, I couldn't say that. Even in this short time, Emma looked downcast. Thinking she might always look this way saddened me. "So, about the family meeting, I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't go." "Why?" "If it's going to make you feel bad, Mom, I don't want to have the family meeting." Emma's eyes seemed to well up, even though she didn't cry. She was considering my feelings. Touched by her kindness, I smiled. "Don't worry about me. Let's have the family meeting so that everyone can acknowledge your marriage." Under the cold sky, Emma and I sipped our cooled coffee on our way home. When Emma told Ryan she wanted to have the family meeting, he was very surprised. And he kept worrying about her, saying, "You don't have to push yourself. I'm fine. Mom says not to worry. If you say so, I'll talk to my parents about it." And so, on the day, Emma and I went to the venue. Though we didn't say anything to each other, I decided to stand tall and face them with confidence. We took a cab to the hotel, and both Emma and I took a deep breath at the entrance. But Emma looked anxious. When Lauren specified this hotel, she made a snide remark. "It's that famous hotel you see in commercials. A place your family wouldn't be familiar with." Emma took it to heart and became completely intimidated by the unnecessary comment. I gently pulled Emma closer by the shoulder, signaling with my eyes that everything would be okay, and we started walking together. We ran into Ryan at the entrance. He seemed to have arrived earlier and was waiting for the elevator. "Thank you, Emma and Rachel, for having time today." Ryan appeared much more nervous than the last time we met, sweating on his forehead despite it being winter. "No, thank you. We have been looking forward to today." You might have heard from Emma, but this hotel is where my dad works." Ryan seemed uneasy and worried about his parents possibly saying something offensive, given their behavior in front of Emma. I responded confidently, "Yes, I'm aware. No need to worry." "Ryan, you look better when you're confident." As Ryan looked up, the elevator doors opened, and we stepped in, riding up to the higher floor. Upon entering the room, Henry and Lauren were already seated, seemingly in the middle of a conversation, smiling creepily. Noticing that 3 sets of tableware were prepared on our side, I realized it was their sly form of harassment. "Ah, we've been waiting for you. Please, have a seat." "Oh, just the 2 of you? We're a single-mother household," I replied, lifting the corners of my eyes, trying to remain calm. But Lauren let out a mocking laugh. "That's right. Maybe you should take this in a food storage container? Since you're poor." "Huh? Single mothers are poor with low income, right?" "That's right. The income of a single mother is predictably low." Lauren covered her mouth, trying to hold back her laughter. Despite their harsh words, I remained expressionless. Unable to stand it, Ryan cried out, "Dad, Mom, stop it. This is too disrespectful." At that moment, Emma tapped my shoulder. "That's awful. Mom, let's go." "Why?" "If having me means you suffer, Mom, I'd rather not get married." Hearing this, Ryan turned around in surprise. "Emma." While watching them, I clearly said, "It's not necessary. Just wait a moment." Then, an employee came from behind with a food storage container. "Here, please take this home," he offered to Lauren. Henry and Lauren were taken aback, stunned. "If being poor is about low income, please, take it." "Huh? At least Rachel is far from poor," I firmly stated, and the employee, with efficient movements, placed the container down and stepped back, leaving Henry and Lauren outraged. "Is this some kind of disrespect? That's it. You're fired. Both of you, please calm down. She's been a friend of mine since childhood. The rudeness is on your part." The employee turned back to me, smiled briefly, and said, "The division manager always seems so busy." "Division manager?" Lauren and Henry gasped, tumbling out of their chairs like in a cartoon. Henry was sweating not just on his forehead but all over his face. Though it wasn't my intention to hide it, I am the daughter of the president of the group company that owns this famous hotel. I've worked for this company for many years, continuing even after getting married without resigning. When I was pregnant with Emma, I took the same maternity leave as other employees and raised Emma while working in Nathan's stead. By the time Emma entered college, my efforts were recognized, and I was promoted to division manager, unbeknownst to Henry and Lauren. "Are both of you okay?" I addressed Henry and Lauren with a composed voice as they lay sprawled on the floor. "Today, we came here for the family meeting regarding the marriage of my precious daughter and Ryan. It seems you have had quite a bit to say to my daughter." I glared at them, causing Henry and Lauren to tremble and shrink back. "I've worked hard to provide love and education for Emma since her father, my husband, died from illness when she was young." Ryan swallowed hard. "I believe in Emma, and I trust the person she has chosen. Even if he comes from parents who judge people by their income and are rude, I see Ryan as a polite and respectable young man, an important new member of our family." I paused for a moment before continuing. "I would think you feel the same about your children. So, I ask again, do you approve of my daughter's marriage to Ryan?" The room fell silent, with Henry and Lauren trembling, and Ryan looking nervous. Emma had never seen me take such a stance before. "How about it?" I pressed again, and Lauren, looking frustrated, glanced at Henry. Henry, pale-faced and flustered, hurriedly said, "Of course. Director, we hope for a closer relationship from now on." "Today, I am here not as a director but as Emma's mother," I stated firmly, looking at Henry. "And if we're talking about work, isn't it true that Henry will soon be leaving here?" "What do you mean?" I had investigated Henry's reputation within the company up until today. Knowing Emma's dad was Henry, I remembered his name. His condescending attitude towards Emma and his notorious behavior among hotel staff were well known. Henry was infamous for his high-handed behavior towards subordinates and was reported to be avoiding work under the guise of attending meetings. A hearing had been scheduled to address these issues. "So, that's what it is. You should reflect on your actions." I left Henry speechless with my rebuke. Lauren stood up, face red, and lunged at me with a screech. However, I dodged, and she fell over. To the fallen Lauren, I delivered my final statement. "And know this, if you ever interfere with Emma and Ryan's happiness again, I will not remain silent." With that, I firmly addressed the two, then led Emma and Ryan out of the room. Of course, I left the follow-up to the employee who has been a friend since childhood. Half a year has passed. The heat is relentless for someone in their 50s like me. The weather forecast predicts another scorcher today. As I walked to the supermarket, I thought back on the events. After the family meeting, Ryan apologized to Emma and me numerous times. "I'm really sorry for my parents' rude behavior." "It's okay. We've seen your sincerity." "I'm truly ashamed. I don't want to associate with parents like that anymore." "But they're the ones who raised you, right?" "No, it was my uncle who raised me. My parents left me with him until I was a college student." I had secretly wondered why Ryan's demeanor was so different from Henry and Lauren's arrogance. Understanding it was his uncle who raised him made sense. Ryan recently cut ties with Henry and Lauren after they approached him for money. Following the family meeting, Lauren called in a panic. "Ryan, your dad lost his job. He was subjected to an internal hearing for negligence, making no sense at all." Ryan responded indifferently. "That's tough." "What do you mean, acting like it's none of your business? We're struggling without money, send us some." "Mom, I heard about your spending habits from my uncle. You have a problem with wastefulness." "What are you talking about?" "Maybe if you stopped wasting money, you'd have enough to live on. Don't rely on me." Such unnecessary talk. Then again, there were several calls, and Lauren had run through her savings due to her spending habits, even going as far as to say that Henry's retirement allowance was running out. Struggling to make ends meet, Henry and Lauren did not just ask for money but also reached out to me, wanting me to connect them over the phone. Morning, noon, or night, they didn't care when they called, which finally seemed to make Ryan explode in anger. "Dad and Mom, please, enough. I don't want to trouble Emma or Rachel either." With that, he hung up the call and set Henry and Lauren's number to be blocked. Not stopping there, Ryan changed his mobile phone number and moved to a new apartment with Emma, changing their address. Of course, this was not communicated to Henry and Lauren, who remained unaware of Ryan and Emma's whereabouts afterward. Nothing stood in the way of their happy married life anymore. From what I've heard from Emma, they have been living peacefully since then. As for me, I've managed to maintain a good relationship with them, dining out with Emma and Ryan monthly. This incident made me realize a huge misunderstanding on my part. While I worked hard, thinking I was doing my best not to trouble Emma and raised her, I had completely stopped going on trips, which was my hobby. It seems Emma believed she was the reason I gave up my hobby, thinking my sacrifices were because of her. The efforts I made to spare Emma any hardship or worry ended up worrying her instead. From now on, don't worry about me. I want you to use your time and money for yourself. Until Emma told me this, I was enjoying living by myself at home, but afterwards, I started traveling more on weekends. As someone who loved domestic trips, I began visiting places I had wanted to go and places that held dear memories. And strangely, working hard daily made me feel it was okay to spend money and time for myself. Moreover, exploring the latest hotels started to benefit my work. Projects and such began to progress more smoothly, bringing me luck. As I thought of Emma's influence, I finished paying for my shopping and left the store. Today's shopping was for groceries to cook dinner together with the three of us. Glancing up, I saw Emma approaching from the opposite direction. "Mom, are you okay? Don't strain yourself, let me carry that for you." Emma hurried over and effortlessly took the bag from my right hand. "Oh, thank you. Shall we go then?" "Yes. Ryan said he'd come over as soon as he's done with work. He's looking forward to your chicken dish," Emma said with a smile. "We'll need to make plenty then." Recently, we received wonderful news that Emma is pregnant. Ryan, Emma, and of course, I were all delighted. I'm planning a surprise for Emma and Ryan, looking forward to sending clothes and toys for the grandchild, though it's a secret from them. While I wonder if it's too early, I know before long, the child will be born. Though this new life has just been conceived, I'm already eagerly anticipating the day I can meet them. Laura here. Annabelle. Melissa. If you're there, please answer. I banged on the door loudly, but there was no response at all. Just as I was about to leave, thinking they might have gone out, I heard the sound of a key turning. When the door opened, there stood my granddaughter Melissa. She looked anxious, but her face lit up when she saw me. "Granny!" she exclaimed briefly and hugged me tightly. I picked up Melissa and went inside. The room was eerily quiet, and Annabelle was nowhere to be seen. "Melissa, did Annabelle go out somewhere?" Melissa just nodded in response to my question. As we moved further into the house and reached the living room, I noticed half-eaten snacks on the table. I put Melissa down and asked her again. "It's lunchtime, but you were eating snacks?" "Yeah. When Dad's not here, Santa Claus comes and brings me snacks." "Santa Claus? He comes on days when Dad's not here and brings lots of stuff. Mom looks so happy about it. But it's a secret from Dad. Because it would bother Santa Claus." Hearing this, I became certain of something. Annabelle's flashy outfit the other day was for meeting this Santa Claus. I immediately started to search the house for evidence. I am Laura. I work at a cafe near my home. I lost my husband about 20 years ago, and since then, I have been raising my son Nicholas on my own. Since my husband's passing, the regulars at the cafe have been looking out for me in various ways. With their support, Nicholas grew up well and became independent as a working adult. I shared this joy with all the regulars. A few years after Nicholas started working, he married a woman named Stephanie, and they had my granddaughter, Melissa. Lately, my greatest joy has been seeing Melissa. She seems to have taken a liking to me, which makes me incredibly happy. My hobby is knitting, and I make sweaters and hats, gifting them to her whenever I can. "Melissa, I knitted a sweater for you." Seeing the sweater I made, Stephanie also smiled warmly. "Thank you as always." "Melissa, make sure you thank her properly." "Thank you." She held the sweater I gave her dearly, humming a tune as she took it to her room. Watching her back, Stephanie and I talked about Melissa's future. Everything was supposed to be fulfilling. But misfortune strikes suddenly. Stephanie fell seriously ill. I took care of Melissa instead, praying fervently every day for Stephanie's recovery. Nicholas, too, was busy caring for Stephanie and comforting Melissa whenever he could. We believed Stephanie would recover. However, after years of fighting the illness, Stephanie passed away. But there was no time to grieve. We still had young Melissa. With Nicholas busy at work, I started to go to his house to take care of her. Seeing Stephanie's resemblance in my granddaughter's face, I vowed to do everything to make Melissa happy. A few years passed by. I was at Nicholas's house, cooking dinner for Melissa as usual. Nicholas returned from work with a serious look on his face.
Mom, I need to talk to you, just the two of us.
He took Melissa to her room and returned alone after a while. I wondered what it was about. A bit anxious, I opened my mouth.
So, what's up?
Nicholas looked embarrassed.
Well, actually, I'm thinking of remarrying.
What? I blurted out loudly. Then covered my mouth, worrying Melissa might hear. Nicholas continued seriously.
Sorry, I know it's shocking. I didn't intend to at first. But thinking of the future, I worry about Melissa being lonely.
Indeed, Nicholas had a point. I'm taking care of her now, but there's no guarantee I can continue to do so. Melissa is still young, she might accept a new mother.
I understand. I'll support your decision. So, what's she like, the woman you're seeing?
Relieved, Nicholas smiled for the first time.
She's a junior at my company. She's been into me since she joined. She's really cheerful, I think Melissa will like her.
That's good to hear.
Actually, I'd like you to meet her before the wedding, if that's okay.
Of course. So the conversation progressed, and a few days later, I was set to meet Nicholas's fiancée. Her name is Annabelle, and just like Nicholas said, she was very cheerful. Throughout our conversation, her constant smile made me genuinely like her. When I first saw him at the company, I knew I liked him. I heard he lost his previous wife, but I didn't care and went for it. I aggressively pursued him. Anyway, she talked a lot. With her youthful appearance, she looked much younger than her age. I was worried about how Melissa would feel about Annabelle, but Melissa seemed to warm up to her quickly. Seeing Melissa so attached to Annabelle, I felt reassured that she would be all right.
Annabelle, please take good care of them. I'm here to help if you need anything.
I bowed as politely as I could, and Annabelle gave a thumbs up. Okay. Leave it to me. Afterward, Nicholas and Annabelle got married and started their new life. I wholeheartedly blessed their future and returned to my regular life. Working at the cafe, joking with the regulars, and knitting while watching TV at home. It was fulfilling, but I felt a bit lonely compared to the busyness of the past. At such times, I prayed in my heart to Stephanie. What would she say if she were alive? I thought about such things as I continued with my knitting. Several more years passed since their remarriage. One day, I went to give Melissa a sweater I had knitted, heading to the condominium where Nicholas and his family lived. Nicholas seemed busy with work lately, often away on business trips. With him not home often, I worried Annabelle might be overburdened with childcare. While delivering the sweater, I hoped to help Annabelle as well. Thinking about what to talk about with her, I headed to Nicholas's condominium.
What floor was it again?
Arriving at the condominium, I muttered to myself, standing in front of the elevator. Luckily, the elevator was just coming down. Third floor, second floor, as the lights blinked, and a sound indicated its arrival at the first floor. In contrast to the slowly opening doors, a woman hurried out. I glanced at her and was surprised to see that the woman was Annabelle.
Oh!
Annabelle! Startled by my voice, Annabelle let out a gasp and hopped a little.
Laura? You startled me! What are you doing here?
Sorry about that. I knitted a sweater for Melissa and thought I'd bring it over. Hearing this, Annabelle suddenly seemed unsettled. Her gaze wandered around, restlessly. I noticed that Annabelle was dressed very elegantly. Her outfit and makeup were perfect.
Are you heading out? Bad timing on my part.
Yes, I have a meeting with mom friends. So, Avoiding eye contact and fidgeting with the hand not holding her bag, Annabelle spoke. Annabelle seemed in a hurry. Regretting not contacting her in advance, I suggested. Don't worry about me, go ahead. Melissa is in her room, right? If I stay with her, you can relax and enjoy your time more. And so, I offered. Just wait a moment. I can't impose that on you, Laura. Don't worry about it. You probably need a break too. I'm just an old lady with too much time on her hands. However, she stubbornly refused my offer, and I felt something was off. Sure, I might have been overstepping. But was there a need for her to be so frantic? The truth is, my apartment's a mess. I'm embarrassed for you to see it. That's why I don't want you to come in. It's fine, really. I can help clean up. Finally, unable to hold back any longer, Annabelle snatched the bag with the sweater from my hand. I really can't have you here. I'll make sure Melissa gets the sweater. Please go home now. I'll contact you later. Then she pressed the elevator button. Even as Annabelle stepped in and the doors began to close, she kept a wary eye on me, making sure I wasn't following. As the doors closed slowly, I waved goodbye. Only silence remained. But my mind was anything but quiet. The season was about to turn to autumn, yet her attire was quite revealing. I also noticed a strong scent of perfume. I've met with mom friends myself, but never dressed so provocatively. Maybe times have changed, but Annabelle's attire seemed too intent on attracting the opposite sex. Moreover, the once bright smiling Annabelle didn't smile at all. Instead, she had a glaring look that concerned me. I wanted to chase after her, go to the apartment, and clear my doubts. But Melissa was there too. Not wanting to cause a commotion, I decided not to. I watched the elevator light ascend with a feeling of unease. With worries in my heart, I left the condominium quickly. That night, while knitting and watching TV, I suddenly got a call from Annabelle. I stopped my work and answered the phone. Hello. Hello. Granny. Melissa's innocent voice came through. Her voice instantly made me smile. Melissa. It's been a while. Have you been well? Yeah. And, thanks for the sweater. I'll treasure it. Her words brought relief. Annabelle had indeed given it to her. That's all right, dear. If you ever need another, I'm always here to knit one for you. Really? That's so nice. Granny, you're like Santa Claus too. The phrase Granny, you're like Santa Claus too oddly struck me. As if there was someone else giving gifts besides me. Yes, indeed. You're such a good girl, Santa Claus must visit you a lot. I subtly tried to confirm the meaning of her words. Melissa. Don't say unnecessary things. I faintly heard Annabelle's angry voice from the background. Unaware that I could hear her, Annabelle continued scolding in a stern tone. You've already said thank you, right? Hang up now. Yes, okay. Sorry, Granny. I have to go now. Melissa's voice was trembling. More than being upset about being scolded, she seemed frightened by Annabelle's voice. Understood. Call me again later. With that, I ended the call and picked up my crochet hook again. The interaction between the two felt oddly strained for a mother and child. Due to a vague unease, I found it hard to continue knitting. Annabelle's flashy attire from the afternoon and Melissa's fearful voice from earlier. Could something troubling be happening? I knew I had to do something, but wasn't sure what. I sat motionless for a while, pondering my next move. That's it. Nicholas. I should talk to Nicholas. With his image in mind, I immediately grabbed my mobile phone and called Nicholas. He was on a business trip out of state, but it should be after work hours. Please, pick up. Luckily, Nicholas answered the phone right away. Hello. What's up, Mom? It's unusual for you to call at this time. I could hear a hint of tiredness in his voice. But I had no time to worry about that. Hello, Nicholas. Are you okay? I need to talk to you about something. I'm fine, but what's wrong? Did something happen? Sensing urgency in my voice, Nicholas's tone became serious. I told him about visiting the condominium with the sweater, encountering Annabelle in the elevator hall, and then about Melissa earlier. Nicholas listened quietly as I spoke. After I finished, he replied, "I understand the situation. Indeed, it does sound concerning." He let out a deep sigh.
That's what I thought. I can't stop thinking about it.
While I was frantic, Nicholas seemed surprisingly calm.
What should we do? What if something happens to Melissa?
Just wait a moment, Mom. Panicking won't help. I think Annabelle is just stressed because I've been busy. We shouldn't make a fuss about it. Calmed by Nicholas's advice, I regained some composure. You're right. I'm sorry for jumping the gun. That's okay. But we can't just leave it at that. I'll talk to my company and try to cut my business trip short. We can go to the house together when I'm back. Indeed, it's better to act together rather than rushing in alone. I agreed with Nicholas's suggestion. Understood. Let me know when you've decided on a plan. Yeah. But keep this a secret from Annabelle, okay? Talk to you later. After hanging up, I let out a deep sigh. Nothing was resolved yet, and the unease hadn't disappeared. But hearing Nicholas's calm voice had indeed eased my mind a bit. Nicholas has really grown up. I need to stay strong too. Reminding myself of this, I waited for Nicholas's call with a shifted mindset. Soon after, Nicholas contacted me saying he could return earlier than planned. We arranged to visit the condominium together and hoped for the day to come quickly. All I could do was pray for Melissa's safety. Stephanie, please protect that child. I beg of you. I continued to plead in my heart. Finally, the day arrived. Leaving my house earlier than planned, Nicholas was not yet there. After informing him I'd enter first, I took the elevator to the apartment. Reaching the door, my heart raced. I mentally rehearsed what to say to Annabelle and braced myself before ringing the doorbell. I rang once, twice, but there was no response from inside. Unable to wait, I knocked on the door. Laura here. Annabelle. Melissa. If you're there, please answer. I banged on the door loudly, but there was no response at all. Just as I was about to leave, thinking they might have gone out, I heard the sound of a key turning. When the door opened, there stood Melissa. She looked anxious, but her face lit up when she saw me.
Granny!
She exclaimed briefly and hugged me tightly. I picked up Melissa and went inside. The room was eerily quiet, and Annabelle was nowhere to be seen. Melissa, did Annabelle go out somewhere? Melissa just nodded in response to my question. As we moved further into the house and reached the living room, I noticed half-eaten snacks on the table. I put Melissa down and asked her again. It's lunchtime, but you were eating snacks?
Yeah. When Dad's not here, Santa Claus comes and brings me snacks.
I decided to ask Melissa about the doubt that had been on my mind since the other day. Melissa, who is this Santa Claus? While eating the snacks, Melissa shook her head. I don't know. He comes on days when Dad's not here and brings lots of stuff. Mom looks so happy about it. What does Mom say about him? Does she mention Santa Claus's name? Melissa tilted her head in confusion. I don't know. She always leaves with Santa Claus quickly. Only Mom comes back. So, Santa Claus visits often because you're a good girl. But Dad doesn't know, right? Yeah. Dad's never met Santa Claus. Mom says not to tell Dad because it would upset Santa Claus. Hearing this, I was convinced that Annabelle was entertaining an unknown man while Nicholas was away. Presumably, that's what she planned when I tried to deliver the sweater. That would explain Annabelle's behavior at that time. And Melissa, receiving sweets and toys, really is believing in Santa Claus. A cheap way to keep her quiet. That's when I noticed Melissa's clothes were dirty. Melissa, stay here for a moment. I had a bad feeling. Looking around the house, my fears were confirmed. Dirty clothes scattered everywhere, unwashed dishes piled up in the kitchen. Carefully avoiding the mess, I opened the fridge. It was nearly empty, with only expired food inside. Shocked by the state of things, I returned to the living room. Melissa was gobbling up the sweets. "Melissa, are you hungry? Haven't you eaten?" "I'm hungry because I haven't ate. That's why I like eating the sweets Santa Claus gives me." I hugged Melissa tightly, gently stroking her head. It's too much for such a young child to endure. How could I face Stephanie in heaven now? As I loosened my embrace, Nicholas arrived. Entering the room and setting down his bag, he sighed as he looked around. "This is a mess."
Dad! Welcome back!
Melissa quickly left my side and hugged Nicholas.
Melissa, have you been a good girl?
Nicholas embraced her, gently stroking her head as I had.
Nicholas, can you watch Melissa? She hasn't eaten anything. I'm going to the supermarket to buy some groceries. Understood. I appreciate it.
I hurriedly left and bought essential groceries. Back home, I cleaned the kitchen and cooked a meal. Melissa ate hungrily. Meanwhile, Nicholas and I cleaned the room and secured evidence of Annabelle's infidelity. We discussed how to confront Annabelle with the truth. During our talk, Nicholas sensed Annabelle's return and retreated to the back room.
I'm home. You better have not done anything.
Annabelle entered, noticing me, and dropped her bag.
Laura! What are you doing here?
She looked around the room and went to the kitchen. And then approached me angrily.
Unbelievable. You just come in and use the kitchen? That's outrageous even for you.
Annabelle's anger didn't seem to subside. And then she directed her anger at Melissa.
Melissa! You opened the door for her. Why do you always do such unnecessary things?
Melissa dropped her chopsticks to the floor and clung to Annabelle's legs, crying loudly. Mom, I'm sorry. I won't do anything bad again. Please forgive me. Annabelle, there's no need to speak like that. Melissa was waiting here hungry the whole time. Annabelle, her face twisted in anger, let out a heavy sigh.
I don't need to be lectured. Melissa is my child. Laura, please don't interfere.
I clenched my fists involuntarily. Yes, her words weren't wrong. But I couldn't overlook this situation for Melissa's sake. But this is like neglecting a child. I understand it's tough with Nicholas being busy. If that's the case, you should have asked me for help.
Enough. Just leave now. I'll ask Nicholas to have a word with you. There's no need for that.
Nicholas, unable to bear Annabelle's harsh words any longer, emerged from his hiding spot. Annabelle was surprised to see him. Nicholas, you're back already. That was quick. Was work all right? Annabelle desperately tried to cover up her actions. But it was too late for such efforts. Still, Annabelle seemed oblivious, continuing to speak sweetly to Nicholas. If you had told me you were coming back early, I would have cleaned up and prepared a feast. But those words no longer had any effect on me or Nicholas. Nicholas signaled me with his eyes. Understanding immediately, I took Melissa's hand.
Melissa, you're full now, right? Let's watch TV together.
I took Melissa to another room and turned on the TV. Although she was sobbing, she soon became engrossed in the TV.
Melissa, watch TV for a bit. I'm going to clean up. Okay.
Leaving my smiling granddaughter watching TV, I returned to the living room. Nicholas and Annabelle were seated facing each other at the dining table. Annabelle had changed completely from her earlier coyness, now sitting quietly, looking down. Nicholas sat with his arms crossed, staring intently at Annabelle. I sat down next to Nicholas. Taking that as a cue, Nicholas began to speak.
So, can you explain what all this is about?
Annabelle bit her lip, not answering.
Listen, Annabelle. I'm not trying to blame you.
I share the responsibility, too. I was too busy with work to help with childcare. Then Annabelle suddenly looked up and glared at Nicholas. That's right. It's all your fault for dumping everything on me. You're never home, and Melissa is a handful. It was hard. So, you cheated on him. I calmly responded to Annabelle's defiant attitude. In her panic, Annabelle started blurting out things we hadn't even asked. I did love Nicholas, you know. Since I joined the company. I thought Stephanie's death was my chance, so I married him, but now I regret it. She continued, taking advantage of our silence. But look at Nicholas. He's gotten old. Look at that belly. It's embarrassing. I'm disillusioned. I'm still young and I want to have fun. Is that too much to ask? I involuntarily glanced at Nicholas. But he didn't seem particularly angry. I get what you're saying. So, who is your affair partner? A friend from my student days, Hugo. We happened to meet recently. He's still wonderful, unlike you. After saying this, Annabelle looked up at the ceiling. I shouldn't have married. Melissa is becoming more like Stephanie and is not cute at all. But Hugo likes kids, so she was useful in that matter. Suddenly, Nicholas slammed his fist on the table. Both Annabelle and I were startled and tensed up. Nicholas glared at Annabelle with anger-filled eyes. You think because I don't say anything, you can keep this up? I was going to forgive you, but you keep spouting nonsense. Annabelle seemed completely frightened by this side of Nicholas. I swallowed hard, impressed by his intensity. Mock me all you want, but I won't tolerate you talking about Melissa like that. It's over. We're getting a divorce. I'll be seeking alimony, too. Wait. Annabelle's complexion changed the moment she heard divorce. She realized she had said too much. I won't divorce. I'll apologize for overstepping. I regret what I did to Melissa, and I'll break up with Hugo. Please forgive me. No, we're separating. Even if I forgave you now, you'd just do it again. My mind is made up. I had never seen Nicholas with such a cold expression. Annabelle's anger flared up again at his unchanging decision. Stop it. You just admitted it's your fault. I won't allow a divorce. Hearing this, Nicholas slowly took out his mobile phone and placed it on the table. He operated the screen, and Annabelle's voice started playing. As soon as she heard it, she became silent and seemed to come to her senses. Her earlier statements echoed through the room. As you can hear, I recorded your voice. I have evidence of the state of the room and your affair. So, there's no chance of winning for you. Thus, Annabelle finally compromised and accepted the divorce. For the time being, I took custody of Melissa. It was decided because Nicholas was busy, and it was deemed unsafe to leave her with Annabelle. During the divorce mediation, I started taking Melissa to the cafe with permission. The regular customers were smitten with her and even helped look after her. When I explained the situation to them, one of them, a former detective, suggested filing a criminal complaint. With enough evidence, it would be possible, he advised. I immediately informed Nicholas, and we began preparations for a criminal case. Simultaneously, the divorce mediation also progressed smoothly. Thanks to the evidence we had secured in advance, Nicholas successfully gained custody. I am truly glad I consulted with Nicholas at that time. Regarding alimony, since Nicholas also had some fault, the amount wasn't significant. However, Annabelle couldn't afford it, so her parents agreed to pay on her behalf. Subsequently, Annabelle was arrested. Following the trial, she is now incarcerated. Melissa was anxious until the turmoil settled, but she quickly cheered up thanks to the regular customers and our emotional support. On my recommendation, Nicholas moved to a nearby neighborhood. He's still busy with work, so when he's on business trips, Melissa stays at my house. Our greatest joy is doing knitting together and watching TV. Melissa increasingly resembles Stephanie. Seeing Stephanie's reflection in Melissa's smile, we are all living a happy life. Living with a sick person? That's too depressing, no way. Just leave that dying Amiel alone. Matthew threw those cold words at me when I expressed my desire to live with my mom, who was in the last stage of breast cancer. I wonder if she couldn't eat good food because she was poor. That's so sad. My Amiel, who always disliked my mom, seemed almost pleased upon hearing about my mom's illness. I was shocked. Don't they have a heart? Years later, Amiel was diagnosed with a terminal cancer as well. Matthew decided we should live with Amiel without asking me, so to get back at him, I chose to leave the house. My name is Alicia, I'm 32. I married Matthew, a former colleague from work, 5 years ago. I wanted to keep working, but Matthew wanted me to focus on housekeeping, so I reluctantly became a housewife. We lived just the two of us, but Amiel Samantha, who lived nearby, often came over. Samantha, who was born and raised in a wealthy family, had a different set of values, but we got along reasonably well. The only concern was the bad relationship between my mom, Natalie, and Samantha. My mom grew up in a fatherless household and was forced to live in poverty. Maybe that's why she took good care of things and didn't indulge in luxuries. However, Samantha was extravagant and bragged about being wealthy more than necessary. The pre-wedding family meeting took place in a hotel near the in-laws' house. The meal went smoothly, but when I went to the restroom, I found Samantha and Mom arguing. "Where did you buy those clothes? They look so poor." Well, I hate the idea of being related to someone who dresses so strangely. Why is Matthew marrying someone from such a weird family? It's not about appearance. Judging people by such things isn't right. Mom wasn't fazed and countered firmly, which seemed to annoy Samantha, who glared at her fiercely. They met again at the wedding but didn't talk at all, and Mom and Samantha haven't met since. Samantha, who lived alone, a 10-minute walk away, was living off the inheritance from her husband, who was a doctor. Perhaps because she had time on her hands living alone, she often visited our house. Before Matthew went to work, he told me to keep the next Sunday free. Why? I was planning to visit Mom on Sunday. Mom's coming over to visit. Can't you handle it alone? If you're my wife, you should at least offer Mom some coffee. But I want to visit my mom sometimes too. We can do that some other time. It's not too far to my parents' home. Just about a 15-minute drive. But because Samantha came over almost every week, I hadn't seen my mom for nearly 3 months. We kept in touch by phone and text, but I missed seeing her in person from time to time. Since Dad passed away, Mom had been working part-time and could only really relax on Sundays. But with Samantha visiting almost every week, it had been hard to find the time to go home. I was just thinking that this week, I should visit my parents' home and talk to Mom. That's when I got a call from an unknown number on my mobile phone. It's XX Hospital. Your mom collapsed at work and was brought here. I panicked at the sudden news. I rushed out of the house and headed to the hospital, where I found my mom lying down. The doctor invited me into the examination room to talk. Your mom has breast cancer. Breast cancer? Can it be cured? Unfortunately, the cancer has spread. It's unlikely to be completely cured. How sad. I couldn't help but tear up at the doctor's words. I never imagined my mom could have cancer. I still haven't been able to repay her for everything. What am I going to do now? I was filled with anxiety. The treatment will be tough and the chances of a complete recovery are slim. We recommend palliative care to make her as comfortable as possible. The doctor's kind words helped me regain some composure, and I returned to the ward. Mom looked much thinner than the last time I saw her. I couldn't help but think that if I had visited Mom sooner, I might have noticed earlier. But it's too late for regrets. I told Mom I wanted to live with her and take care of her at home. She smiled happily at my decision. So, I decided to discuss it with Matthew as soon as I got home. By the time I finished all the hospital procedures, it was already evening. When I got home, Samantha and Matthew were there. Matthew had asked Samantha to prepare dinner because he knew I'd be home late. "How's Natalie?" "She has breast cancer. It seems pretty bad, and the treatment doesn't look promising," I told Matthew, fighting back tears. Matthew looked as sad as if it was about his own family and comforted me by stroking my back. Grateful for Matthew's kindness, I told him I wanted to live with my mom. But his response was unexpected. "That's a problem. It's depressing to come home to a bedridden sick person. Living with MIL and having to be considerate all the time? Absolutely not. But my time with mom is running short. It's only right to spend it together." I disagree. Can you really take care of Natalie and handle all the housework? Exactly. We need the housework done properly, and you don't even know anything about caregiving. I won't neglect the housework, and I'll learn about caregiving. It's not like she's bedridden right away. Just leave dying Natalie alone. It's such a hassle. Right. It's really silly how desperate you are. They laughed. I could only stare at them in disbelief. Are these people even humans? How can they suggest leaving mom alone when she is about to pass away? Maybe she couldn't afford nutritious food because she was poor. But at least it's not a contagious disease, Samantha said with a laugh. I glared at her, burning with anger. Then, Samantha looked at me and smirked. What's with that look? If you don't like it, just leave. Not sure if Natalie, a part-time worker with a meager salary, and you, a housewife with no income, can survive even a week, though. That's right. I'm supporting you. You should listen to me. I couldn't respond. Matthew paid for all our living expenses. My savings were only from before we got married. There was no way the two of us could live on that. So, I decided to visit my parents' home during the day and take care of mom. It's only a 15-minute drive, not too far to commute. At first, balancing housework and caregiving was manageable, but gradually, as her illness progressed, mom's muscles weakened and she could hardly walk. It was harder than I imagined. Still, I studied caregiving methods diligently and tried my best to repay mom. I took care of her and did the housework without a break, getting more and more tired. Then one day, I saw unfamiliar shoes at my parents' home. When I went to mom's bedroom, I found her sister, Hannah. What happened? Natalie asked me to come and help Alicia. I'm sorry for the trouble. I'd be okay with staying at a facility, but I thought Alicia might not want that. Indeed, I wanted her to spend as much time as possible at home. Understanding that, mom had asked Hannah for help. I'm sorry. It's okay. I want to help too. From that day, Hannah started coming to the house every other day to help. Having Hannah's help made things much easier. I had more time to rest and felt a little more at ease, but cruelly, the disease kept ravaging mom's body. She caught a severe cold, developed pneumonia, and was admitted to the hospital. A week after her admission, I got a call from the hospital saying mom was critical. When I arrived at the hospital, it was just when mom's heart stopped. As the beeping of the machines echoed, I broke down. The tears didn't stop at the farewell too soon with mom. I was so emotionally shattered that I could hardly manage my daily life. If it weren't for Hannah, I don't think I could have handled the funeral preparations or the inheritance procedures. Matthew and Samantha didn't offer help until the end, nor did they seem to care. Honestly, I was thinking of divorcing Matthew. But my lack of financial independence was a barrier. So, I started working in caregiving. I thought about saving up quickly to get a divorce, but then something happened that made it impossible. I was pregnant. It was a long-awaited child, and both Matthew and Samantha were overjoyed. For me too, it was a much-desired child. Though it was nice to see Matthew and Samantha happy about it. Being pregnant meant I couldn't continue working. A few months later, my son Sean was born safely. Seeing newborn Sean made me feel I had to protect him no matter what. With few childcare centers accepting infants, and the demands of childcare and housework, I reluctantly resigned from my job. I lost my chance to divorce, and about 5 years passed. I started working in caregiving again when Sean began attending preschool. I worked only while Sean was at preschool, juggling housework and childcare at home. One day, Matthew came home early on his day off with a somber look. It was much earlier than his usual return time. Usually, he'd spend his days off golfing with friends or going to the movies, not returning until the evening. But today, it was only 3 p.m. "Dad, you're home early." Sean greeted him happily, but Matthew didn't respond. "We need to have a serious talk, so Sean, please go to your room." After taking Sean to his room, I sat down on the sofa.
"What's wrong? You look upset."
"Actually, I got a call from Mom. She has a cancer."
"What?"
"The same breast cancer as Natalie. And there's no treatment for Mom either."
"I see."
Thinking of Mom, my heart ached. The shock of her passing still hadn't healed, and my heart was still wounded. But my time to grieve was short.
"Mom said she wants to spend time with us.
So, we're going to live together."
"What?"
"She's planning to move in the week after next."
"Wait. What's wrong?"
"Matthew, you're so against me living with my mom. That was years ago, and that was Alicia's mom. This time it's my mom. It's different."
"How is it different?"
"I'm absolutely against it."
"What are you talking about?"
"Can't you, as a wife, take care of your MIL? You married me. It's only natural to treat my mom the same as your mom." Matthew countered with an argument that made no sense.
"I'm sorry, but I won't be taking care of Samantha. Given how you've spent your days off playing around, never bothering with childcare or housework, you're probably just going to dump the caregiving on me, aren't you?"
"That's not true."
"But Alicia, you work in caregiving, right? So it makes sense for you to do it."
"What are you talking about?"
"I'm not going to take care of Samantha without getting paid."
"How heartless can you be? Look, living together is already decided.
I'm renting an electric bed, so make space for it."
With that, Matthew left the house. I was left reeling by Matthew's selfishness. I hadn't forgotten the hurtful things Samantha and Matthew said to me when I wanted to live with my mom. I didn't want to take on the burden of caregiving for such unkind people. I was determined to divorce. After that, Matthew was often late coming home, claiming he was busy with hospital visits and arrangements. He often returned after Sean and I had gone to bed. In Matthew's absence, I began preparing for divorce. The one who helped me with the divorce preparations was Hannah. Hannah had been through a divorce herself, so I consulted her about what should be done. She not only shared her own experiences, but also provided useful information I hadn't even thought of. However, one of my biggest concerns was finding a new home. Even renting an apartment was difficult because I couldn't afford places with high rent. I struggled to find a place that was affordable, suitable for Sean and me, and not too far from my workplace. That's when Hannah offered help.
"If you're struggling with rent, I can introduce you to a good property. A friend of mine owns an apartment, and I believe one room is vacant. She's willing to rent it cheaply to have it occupied, and it's not too far from your workplace."
Grateful for Hannah's offer, I immediately asked her to introduce me to the property. It was conveniently located, not far from Sean's preschool and my workplace, so I signed the contract right away. But there was another thing that worried me. It was about Sean. I felt it was unfair to suddenly drag him into the situation and separate him from his dad. I was considering giving up on the divorce if Sean was against it. However, Sean spoke to me with kind words.
"Mom, are you okay? Are you in pain?" "No, I'm not in pain. Just thinking. Would you be sad if you couldn't live with Dad anymore?" "I'd be a little sad, but I hate seeing you sad more."
I was taken aback by Sean's words and looked into his eyes. Sean continued with a slightly sad face.
"Because Mom, you look a little sad when you're with Dad."
I prefer it when you smile. I had heard that children are very observant, but I was surprised to see how much Sean noticed about me. I thought he was still just a child, but he seemed to sense that things weren't going well with Matthew. And still, Sean chose me. With Sean's understanding, I decided to take action. The day came for Samantha to move in. Matthew had left a message saying to make space for the electric bed and other items. He went to the in-laws' house to bring Samantha's belongings. Seizing the moment, I left the divorce papers at the house and took Sean with me to our new apartment. I ignored Matthew's calls as Sean and I sorted through our belongings. The thought of starting a new life filled me with a sense of liberation. Life with just the two of us turned out to be more comfortable than I expected. By cutting costs and living frugally, my salary was sufficient to support us. In fact, I had used my free time after having my child to study caregiving and had obtained a certification, which resulted in a higher salary than before. Since Matthew never contributed to household chores or childcare, the amount of housework I had to do remained the same. Actually, it was easier without having to cook and do laundry for Matthew. However, in the midst of our comfortable life, I unexpectedly ran into Matthew at the supermarket. "Alicia, what are you doing? You left the house without saying anything." Matthew approached me, shouting amidst the crowd. "Stop it. There are so many people here. Damn it. Come home. We'll talk there." I honestly didn't want to return to that house, to face Samantha again. I didn't want to see her face at all. But to keep my current home a secret, I had no choice but to comply. As soon as I entered the house, Samantha began berating me. "Where have you been, Alicia? It doesn't matter where." "Of course it does. You should come back and take care of Mom." "No thanks. Why not just leave dying people alone?" "What did you say? How could you say such a thing? Did you forget already? Isn't that what you told me? Why should I do anything for Samantha when you never lifted a finger?" Matthew and Samantha's faces turned red with anger and breathed heavily. I don't mind if Matthew wants to care for Samantha. I just want a divorce. Why divorce all of a sudden? You don't even have to do caregiving, just handle the household chores. Are you tired of even that? No. It's not the chores I'm tired of. I'm tired of being Matthew's wife. I can't be with someone who cheats on me with a younger woman, saying he's busy with preparations while his mom is sick. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Samantha looked puzzled, and Matthew stuttered in denial. His panic made it seem like an admission, but he still tried to lie his way out. Actually, when I talked to Hannah about divorcing Matthew because of his tyrannical attitude, she said she saw Matthew entering a young woman's house. So I did a little investigation and sure enough, he's been meeting a woman almost every day. A coworker, maybe? I have the photos. I had received photos of Matthew's infidelity from the investigation. When I showed them, Matthew's face turned pale. Samantha glared at Matthew. "Matthew, what are you doing when I'm going through such a hard time?" "No, it's not like that. I was thinking this would be the last time we meet. Making memories before I start caring for Mom. I won't meet her again." Even if you don't meet her anymore, the fact that you cheated won't change. If you refuse to divorce, I'm not afraid to go to the court, but you won't stand a chance of winning. So, please sign the divorce papers quickly. And from now on, any discussions about the divorce should go through my lawyer. Matthew looked frustrated and then, as if he had an idea, he smirked maliciously. "You're working in caregiving now, right?" "Yes." "I bet you're not earning much. With your salary, you must be living a poor life in a cheap apartment." He probably thought he could intimidate me by highlighting my lack of financial resources. But I was no longer the person I used to be. Thankfully, I got a good deal on a cheap apartment and am living a slightly better life. Of course, I need to be frugal, but I'm not struggling so much that Sean has to go without. I won't be controlled by you forever. Controlled? Yes. You wanted to keep me from earning money by dumping all the housework on me, making me think I couldn't live without you. But I can live without you. When I spoke my mind, Matthew's face twisted in frustration. Fine, I'll divorce you. But don't come crying when you run out of money. Life will only get tougher when Sean starts advancing in school. Just wait, you'll suffer. Matthew signed the divorce papers on the spot. I took them and stood up. Thank you. Now we're strangers. Good luck with Samantha's care. Oh, and about the compensation from the divorce trial, my lawyer will handle it. With those words, I left the house. It was half a year later. Not at the supermarket where I had previously met Matthew, but at a different one. I saw Matthew standing at the entrance. And when he saw me, he hurriedly approached. I'm glad to find you. If you live around here, I thought you'd come here for sure. What do you want? We're strangers now, so don't talk to me. Wait. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Please come back. It seemed Matthew didn't know my apartment or workplace and had been waiting for me at local supermarkets, hoping to run into me. And then, Matthew fervently apologized. What now? I was wrong. Mom can't even go to the toilet by herself anymore, and I can't manage caregiving after work. It's too much. I'm exhausted, making mistakes at work. I can't handle it all on my own. Matthew was likely struggling with housekeeping. He was wearing a dirty shirt. And his hair was unkempt and unbearable to look at. So you realized how hard caregiving is. I really felt it. So, can you come back and help? No. But why? It's too late for regrets now. It's all because of what you did, Matthew. Don't come near me again. If you follow me, I'll report it to the police. Alicia, don't say that. Please. Make sure you pay the child support and compensation from the divorce trial. Matthew was in tears. The same Matthew who always looked down on me. His pathetic state was just astonishing. The heartless words about my mom, the selfish behavior of constantly playing around without caring for the family, and to top it off, the betrayal of cheating, this was the result. There was no other way to put it but as a consequence of his own actions. Afterward, Matthew apparently pressured his affair partner into marriage, but was, of course, rejected. It seemed she reported him to their superiors, leading to a sexual harassment case, and he was transferred to another department. This news came from former colleagues at the company where we both worked before getting married. Having several acquaintances there, I naturally received updates. Balancing caregiving and work became too much for him, his performance dropped, and with the transfer, his salary significantly decreased. With the reduced income and obligations to pay the child support and compensation from the divorce, he's apparently in a situation where he can't afford a helper or caregiving services. He's desperately trying to provide care, but he's at his limit both mentally and physically, unable to focus at work, making frequent mistakes, and spiraling down. A former colleague mentioned that if the mistakes continue, he might even be fired. It's unfortunate, but it's no longer my concern. I'm living a peaceful life in the apartment Hannah introduced to me. Balancing housework and my job is challenging, but with Sean and Hannah's support, we're managing. It's a pity I couldn't show Sean to Mom, but I like to think she's watching over us as I do my best for Sean's sake.